Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah.
97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Happy Hour Friday on the Sports Bash, live 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. I'm your host, Mike Gill. What's up, everybody? It's Memorial Day weekend. Can you even believe those words are coming out of my mouth? Memorial Day weekend is here at the Jersey Shore, and if you're stuck in traffic already, we got you covered. Great show for you on a Friday. Happy Hour Friday. Start it off. Give me something good on this Happy Hour Friday. What are you having this weekend? Hit me up on the text board, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973 is the way to connect to the text board. What are you having this Happy Hour Friday? And use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday, and we'll hook you up with a pair of tickets to go see some comedy at Ocean Casino. Tim Dillon's in town this weekend. We're going to hook you up with that today on the Sports Bash. Use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday with your name and where you're from if you want to go see comedian Tim Dillon at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. That's how we start off Happy Hour Friday. Holy moly, I can't believe it's Memorial Day weekend. I really can't. And the Phillies are the best team in baseball. It feels like a team that's got kind of everything going for them. It feels like one of those special summers is about to get here. And I'll tell you what, yesterday Phillies win again. They started another series off. It just seems like every series that keeps getting put in front of them, they just keep knocking it out of the park and knocking it out of the park and knocking it out of the park. And what can slow this team down? What's the one thing that can kind of get in the way of this Phillies team? And quite frankly, I don't know that I know the answer, and I don't know that I want to find the answer. It's one of those things where you're like, we always try to find something to bring us down. Why do we have to do that? Why do we have to try to find the problem? Why do we have to try to say, there's a problem here? How do they fix it? This team right now, do they have problems? Yeah, I could pick out a few, but are they worth even kind of zoning in on at this point? We know this team's making the playoffs, and as I've said before, this whole season is big picture. What's the big picture for this team? You got to win the World Series. This team has to get it done. Why? They're running out of time. They're running out of time with this group. The Bryce Harper, the Kyle Schwarber, the JT Realmuto. Trey Turner being hurt right now, but he's a big part of why they have a window to get this done. I think if you go to the teams of the past that they've had and you ask yourself, what have they lacked? Why did they not win? The answers are various. They didn't have enough bullpen. I think their bullpen ran out of gas in 2022. Last year, the inconsistencies with the offense, and you might say, well, that offense is the same. Well, let's examine this a little bit. Did this offense, it is the same. Have they improved? You know, part of that is, 2 years ago, Bryson Stott's a young player playing shortstop for you. Last year, he graduates to the second baseman. You have Trey Turner. Alec Bohm, 2 years ago, he's kind of a bottom of the order, kind of a slap hitter, not a big impactful bat in the lineup. 2 years later, he has graduated to the middle of the lineup and has become a very important bat in the middle of the lineup for this team. So I guess you can ask the question, are Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm championship players? Are they two pieces? Because I'm telling you right now, they are two key guys. They are two key guys on this team. Harper's been here, and Harper's produced. Harper has done his job in the playoffs. Harper has done look, nobody did a great job in the playoffs in the World Series in 2022 and in the playoff games last year late against Arizona in 2023. But Bryce Harper has not been a playoff failure. Those guys have done their job for the most part. Your Harpers, your Trey Turners, Schwarber, a lot of these guys, hot and cold. Castellanos carried you through a series. You had the Rhys Hoskins. He carried you through a series. So this team has had their streaky guys. But what's different about this team from the previous two is, Bryson Stott, Alec Bohm, Brandon Marsh, those guys were young players with low contributions on those teams. Or lower contributions. I think last year Alec Bohm made more contributions and had more on his plate. But this year, he has now graduated to another level. Bryson Stott had a really solid, good year last year. But now you're hoping that he has graduated to another level. I'll give you kind of the example that you can compare it to. You look at the Minnesota Timberwolves with a guy like Anthony Edwards. He's in the league 4 years. Bohm and Stott, they're like 3-4 years, those guys. They've been good players. But now, as you gain more experience and you go through the ups and downs of the playoff runs, you start to get more growth, more wisdom, more wise, if you will. And I think Alec Bohm and Bryson Stott and hopefully Brandon Marsh, we could talk more about Brandon Marsh. Those guys are three key young guys. Johan Rojas, the emergence of Ranger Suarez. Obviously, you have an ace with Zach Wheeler. You've got that really solid number 2 with Aaron Nola. We were talking about this morning, my father and I, and he was like, I said, I hope people have fun with this baseball team. It's Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend is baseball. That's what Memorial Day weekend, is like the baseball season. It's warm finally, hitting season. And the Phillies are so far out in front. It's like, let's have fun with this team. Let's go. The ballpark's full. Have fun with this team. And, one of the things about the Phillies team, we're always as Philly fans or sports fans. I think it's sports fans in general, but Philly fans, it's always like, when's the sky going to fall? When's that shoe going to drop? When's something bad going to happen? Look, how many teams can lose a Trey Turner and be like, whatever? Can you imagine if Trey Turner was on a team like Milwaukee and they lost a player of that magnitude? What that would do to their lineup? That would be crushing for them. Trey Turner hits number 2 in this lineup. He was hitting over 320, I think, when he went out, and they haven't blinked an eye. People, I think, are not making as big of a deal out of Trey Turner being out of the lineup because last year he got off to a slow start. He wasn't getting off to a slow start this year. Trey Turner was hitting 340 when he left the team. You got a guy hitting 340 in your lineup that's not there. 343 with a 392 on base percentage in 33 games. It's not like he played 3 games. He played 30-plus games. He's hitting 343. He's on base 39% of the time. Put it this way. He's on base 39% of the time. It's the highest on the team. His 343 batting average is 100 points or more over almost everybody except for Alec Bohm. I say 100. I'm kind of, it's 80 points, okay? How many teams can lose Trey Turner, a player of that ability, and nothing has happened to this team? But I think what is the most difficult thing for the other teams when you play the Phillies, it's almost reminiscent of the 11 team. You win a lot of regular season games when you have the pitching. And the Phillies are going to pile up regular season games. And we talk about this, the Atlanta Braves, for instance, they win 100-plus games because you have a really deep and good offense in the years past. Let's take the last 2 years, for instance. Atlanta wins over 100 games. Why? Your 1 through 9 is so deep. And, throughout the long summer, you're playing a lot of teams. And when you get that team, let's say you're matched up against Pittsburgh, or you're matched up against Colorado, or you're matched up against, San Francisco, who's just okay, or insert NL Central team here, Miami, the Mets. when you're facing those teams over the long summer, and you have a 1 through 9 that you have, the depth that the Braves have, and you're in that series, and they get stuck facing you on like the middle of the week when their 3, 4, and 5 guys are going, and you miss those teams' top 2 starters, you're getting guys who are not very good, right? Most of the time, you're facing Pittsburgh, you're facing Colorado, Miami, and you're digging deeper into their rotation. You're in the 3, 4, and 5 spot, and you get them on, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend series. You're not losing that series. The Phillies, on the other hand, when they face a Miami and a Pittsburgh and, I keep putting Pittsburgh in there. I feel bad, but they're like the worst team every year. I feel like they're the only team that fits the description of they can always be in the conversation for worst lousy teams, although they're not terrible this year, I guess. You know what I'm saying? The difference for them is even if you have their top 2 pitchers in the rotation facing you, they're stuck facing your guys, and there's the problem. Every night, there's not a night off. There's not a night where the batters can get comfortable. There's not a game where the offense feels like they can be comfortable. You're facing Wheeler. You're facing Nola. You're facing Suarez. Sanchez has now become a guy who's got a really good fastball, an excellent changeup. Taijuan Walker is what Taijuan Walker is. Taijuan Walker is basically paid to go and mop up innings. Can you get me 6 innings every single time you go out there? And if you can get me 6, that means my bullpen is nice and fresh when we turn this thing over back to the top to Wheeler. And then when Wheeler pitches and he goes 7, now I got Hoffman, I got Strahm, I got Kerkering, I've got Alvarado, and it's just the whole week. When you're in a series with this team, that's what you're stuck with. You're stuck facing this pitcher can go 6 or 7, and they got 3 or 4 arms that just keep coming at me. So I guess the question we have to kind of, as we hit Memorial Day weekend, it's Happy Hour Friday. 609-403-0973. Happy Hour Friday. Use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday with your name and where you're from. And we're going to pick out winners for the Tim Dillon tickets for Ocean Casino. That's what, tomorrow night, Josh? Tomorrow night at Ocean Casino. Tim Dillon, comedian, going to be at Ocean. We've got pairs of tickets to give away. So if you want to go, Happy Hour Friday, use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday with your name and where you're from, and we will pick 3 random winners. All right? That's how we're starting off Happy Hour Friday for Memorial Day weekend. We got to hook everybody up with something, right? Not everybody, but try to hook people up with something. So when you look at teams, there's a difference between playoff teams and regular season teams as we hit Memorial Day weekend. Are the Phillies, in your eyes, more of a regular season team, or are they more of a playoff team? Because the Braves over the last couple of years have been a regular season team more than a playoff team. Right. Why is that? Well, they don't really have that top-tier number 1 starter. And their starting pitching isn't filled with depth. I mean, it's just good starting pitching. It's not great starting pitching. And if your offense is matched up against good or great starting pitching, and you only have good but not great starting pitching yourself, your offense that has carried you all regular season long, when you face Pittsburgh's number 4 starter and Colorado's number 5 starter and, Cincinnati's number 3 starter, when you face those teams in the regular season, your offense makes up for the fact that your pitching's just good, not great. In the playoffs, you're facing somebody's best 3 pitchers almost every single night. You might face their number 4 starter one time the entire series. And then really good playoff teams have a bullpen. You know, Arizona last year, why'd they win? Their bullpen just kept coming after you. I mean, they just had guys pitching at an inordinately high level, and they just kept coming after you, and the Phillies' streaky offense just had nothing for them. So Arizona was kind of built for the playoffs more than the regular season. They don't have deep pitching staff, but their top two guys are solid. You can make an argument that their best guy who didn't win in the playoffs, Font was the guy who really killed you. But their bullpen was really what won them that series. Their bullpen just didn't give anything up. So are the Phillies, as you see them, built for both the playoffs and the regular season? We'll see. I think right now, this has been a team that had been built for the playoffs, more so than the regular season. And now it's graduating to almost being built for the regular season, but is it also built for the playoffs? Well, you got Wheeler, you got Suarez, you got Nola. Those three guys would suggest you're built for the playoffs. Why? You have three high-quality starters, all three of which give you deep games. They strike out hitters, and they don't put a lot of runners on base. So it's hard to score when you're not on base. The whip of those three guys, Suarez, 0.79, Wheeler, 0.98, Nola, 1.05. It's outstanding. Spencer Turnbull, 0.99. Get into the bullpen. Hoffman, 1.02. Alvarado, 1.08. Strahm, 0.73. Kerkering, 0.95. I mean, these guys, they just keep coming after you, man. They've got a bullpen right now with those four, and we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see what ends up happening with the trade deadline. We played the audio from Dave Dombrowski, who was on the show podcast with John Heyman, and said basically he doesn't want to make a trade early. He doesn't like to make an early season trade until he kind of figures out. So right now, he's probably looking around trying to say, all right, where do we need some help? Where do we need some help on this team? Our starting pitching's really good. Okay, maybe we're okay there. All right, our lineup, everybody's pretty much contributing. We hope that Castellanos comes around. We'd like to see more probably from Merrifield, but I can't complain with too much else. What about our bullpen? Well, we like our bullpen, but can we add another piece to the bullpen? And I think one of the things that Dombrowski, as we get to Memorial Day weekend, is starting to consider strongly as well is, what about just the pure chemistry of this team and not adding somebody and just letting these guys continue to mesh together?
If the right opportunity came up, you do it at any time. But you also have to be careful because you only have so many bullets you can play. And the chemistry of our club is extremely important, too, because they're together as a team. So every club can get a little bit better, but you have to make sure that you're weighing all those things and don't do something that you later regret.
Dave Dombrowski on the show podcast, he would consider something, but he also mentioned chemistry. And we talk about chemistry. That means, let's say Brandon Marsh is just struggling so much that you're almost like, man, he's really having a struggle here. And I bring up Marsh because he's a popular player. He's hitting .259, 327 on base. I'm not suggesting that Marsh stinks. I'm not suggesting that you got to get rid of Marsh or get him out of the lineup. But you are pretty much coming to terms with he's a platoon player for you. He does not hit lefties. His numbers against lefties are dreadful. So they are essentially platooning him. All right, the question is Whit Merrifield the guy you want to platoon him with? Have you seen enough? Have they felt enough? Do they get enough from Whit Merrifield hitting 191 right now to say Merrifield's the guy? Probably not Pache. I don't think they feel like Christian Pache is going to be the right-handed bat. Now, last year, if you remember, Christian Pache started both games in the wild card round against the Marlins because they threw lefties, and we did not see Brandon Marsh in that series against the Miami Marlins. So do they want to explore upgrading the right-handed platoon bat? I'm not saying last year it was different. I said the right-handed power bat. You got to get that right-handed bat for the middle of the lineup. And I admit it. I didn't think it was out there, and it wasn't. It really wasn't out there. I don't know that they need a right-handed power bat for the middle of this lineup, but do they need to find a right-handed complement to Brandon Marsh? Is that the one thing that they possibly are exploring about adding? Because they don't want to mess with the chemistry. And to me, messing with the chemistry means messing with Marsh's playing time. I don't want to do that. I'm not saying remove Marsh. Marsh, to me, against right-handed bats, he's in my lineup every day. I don't have a problem with that. But do you have to wonder, if there's a lefty pitcher, do I need a better option than Merrifield or Pache? I like to give Merrifield a little bit more time, so I'm not hitting the panic button there.
Just remind people of Pache, when those 2 games you mentioned, Mike, he had 6 plate appearances. He batted 200 in those 2 games. So it's not like he was giving you much. Now, he did have 1 RBI. Okay, and he got 1 walk, so it's not like he was like a complete waste. But it's not like he like popped
waste.
Off the screen.
He was a complete waste.
Well, I mean, if you get an RBI, that's not horrible.
1.
Yeah, 1 in 2 games.
You're saying that 1 RBI is passable
in 2 games.
It's all right. I mean, let's be honest. Pache's not the answer.
No, he's not. But I'm saying that he's not horrible if you have to go to him, but I mean, he's not the ideal option.
I think you're saying he's not horrible if you have to go to him. To me, that's a team that doesn't win. You're saying he's not horrible if you don't have to go to him. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for when I have a platoon that both guys carry their weight.
You're talking about like in 93 when the Phillies had the guys who carried their weight platooning.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you're just playing Pache because you need a right-handed bat to play that day. Not because you're saying it's a great option or a good option. You're just saying he's right-handed
He's not
against
Milt
a left-handed bat, and Marsh doesn't hit lefties, so we'll just try somebody. I'm saying if you are looking around this team of something that you need to improve, to me, it's the Phillies need to decide, is Brandon Marsh strictly a platoon player? I think the answer to that is yes. And if that's the answer, is Merrifield the right-handed bat of that platoon? I don't think it's Pache. Or do we need to find who that right-handed complement? Last year I was saying different. You got to find a right-handed bat to hit in the middle of the lineup. The guy that you thought was going to be Rhys Hoskins. Well, now Rhys Hoskins is a year gone, and you've made it without him. Bohm has kind of graduated to that role. Now I'm saying, do you need to find that right-handed bat to complement Brandon Marsh for the games that he doesn't play? Is that necessary? Is that necessary to say, look, Marsh is not going to play against lefties. We're acknowledging that, but Pache's not the answer. And we're a little disappointed in Merrifield. I would give Merrifield more time, but what if he doesn't materialize? And I think that's kind of what Dombrowski's saying there. We don't want to do something so early. What if Merrifield turns it around? We don't want to trade something away, bring something in, and then Merrifield starts rocking and rolling, and then we gave something away, and then we have a guy who's not playing all that much. They have the pieces here. But that, to me, would be one thing I think they might be examining. That's all. Because as Dombrowski said, they don't want to make a trade early if they don't have to. So that's where we start today. Phillies at Memorial Day. How excited are you guys about this summer with the Phillies? Having a baseball team that's way out in front right now, that hasn't happened here in a long, long time. I mean, 93 was the last time. I mean, they had some teams in like the 08, 9, 10, 11 in that range. That kind of were really, really strong teams. But the 93 team kind of ran away and hid, and it was just a fun summer. It was just like, wow, this team's way out. 11, they kind of ran away and hid too. This team's 6 games up on the Braves. They've got, the Moxie. We talked about that the other day. It's a fun team. Let's have fun with them today here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Couple hashtag happy hour Fridays coming in. Some surfsides and doggy speeds from the heights. A little surfside with the what's that? The spiked tee. Is that a surfside?
I'm not familiar with the surfside. I have to look that up.
I think it's like a spiked tee type of tee. I've seen them around. Yeah, surfside is like one of those like spiked ice tees. 609-403-0973. To you, Josh, and the listeners, happy Memorial Day weekend from Phil and Bring a Team. Thanks, Phil. And He says, I wonder if they could block up the street so you could do a sports bash at Ernest & Sons. I'll talk to Mel. It would be a blast. Well, if Mel wants us there, we would love to be in Brigantine for a happy hour Friday one of these days. He also sends a picture of the Bullet Rye rum. Bullet Rye, whiskey, excuse me. I like the Bullet Rye. If I'm going to go whiskey, which I don't very often, Phil. My buddy was in town Saturday night. He goes Bullet.
I like Bullet. Well,
Todd
it's a good
goes
choice.
Bullet. What else we got here? Cheers from Chris in Rio Grande. Says he'll be working every morning and enjoying Surfsides every evening. Go Phil. The Surfsides are coming out this weekend.
So apparently Surfside makes spiked vodka, spiked iced tea, and spiked lemonade.
Yeah, they're the iced tea kind of thing. They're like a white can.
The other one, yeah.
I've seen the can.
Yeah.
I mean, just not my bag, but these guys, happy hour Friday to you.
Good for them.
Sports Bash live coming up. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Also on today's show, we'll talk to Bob Wankel, RedOctoberPhilly.com. Check out his newsletter. Adam Kaplan, Football at 4, recapping OTAs. Mike Missinelli tonight, host of the Mike Missinelli podcast. And he joins me at 5 o'clock right here on the Sports Bash. Happy hour Friday, Memorial Day weekend. Coming back with more Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live video on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
2:33, it's a happy hour Friday. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. If you're watching live video on the X platform, what's up, everybody? We see you out there. Also, don't forget, I got the Tim Dillon tickets. The comedian will be at Ocean Casino Resort tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at Ovation Hall. Use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday with your name and where you're from, and we'll hook you up with a pair of tickets. We have 5 pair of tickets to give away for the show. Ovation Hall, Atlantic City, Ocean Casino Resort. I was at Ocean last weekend. Place was packed. It was packed last weekend. You would have thought it was Memorial Day weekend last weekend. So if you want the Tim Dillon tickets, hashtag Happy Hour Friday, name and where you're from to the text board, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. That's where you get them. And let us know what you're having this weekend. It is Happy Hour Friday. I got my Happy Hour Friday picks for everybody. I'll do them throughout the day. My annual Happy Hour Friday, Memorial Friday, where I go down to Brigantine and work my way all the way down to Cape May and everywhere in between, giving you some of my favorite spots for the summertime where everybody should check out. Everybody, look. Do the local stuff, hit all your favorite places. I just like to give a shout out to a lot of the local businesses out there that have been in the area that I plan on, checking out this summer. And, it's cool that the summer's here. It feels a little early, but man, Mike, it always feels a little better when the baseball team is good in the summertime. And we're trying to figure out, at Memorial Day, you're way ahead. And in years past, the Braves have been the leader. But we look at them and say, that team's built more for the regular season, and the Phillies built more for the playoffs. Do we look at that differently now, or are the Phillies built for both?
No, I think the Phillies are built for both. That's no guarantee of success when it comes to March, because as we've seen with the Phillies, to their benefit against the Atlanta Braves and to their negative against the Arizona Diamondbacks, that the playoffs can be unpredictable. But the Phillies, with the depth of their lineup and the starting pitching that they have, particularly at the top with Wheeler, Suarez, and Nola, they appear to be built for both the long haul and the sprint of the postseason.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're top of the rotation pitching. That's the part of it that's, all right, you're built for the playoffs because you have those 3 guys. But what I think differently in the regular season, why they're going to win a lot of games, is because they also have a 4 a 5 guy who eats a lot of innings, and just a deep lineup that can beat up on the middle and back end of other rotations. And that's where you get a team that's built for the regular season all the time. Atlanta doesn't have that top end pitching, and that's kind of been their problem that Philadelphia does have. But Philadelphia this year also has a number 4 and number 5. And when you're winning in the number 4 and number 5 spot, that's when you have these historic type of seasons.
Yeah, the Braves don't have it sounds funny to say, but the Braves don't have a Taijuan Walker right now. In past years, they have had that guy that could go out there and throw 6-7 innings and maybe give up 4 runs and keep you in a game. A guy who's not going to post tremendous statistics, but a guy who at the end of the year is going to throw, between 170 and 200 innings and eat up innings and give you a chance to win every night. And, the development of Sanchez has been one of the major stories of the season. I mean, he was touching 98 on the radar gun, in his last start out. So it'd be interesting to see what he does, I believe, tonight out there in Colorado. So the development of Sanchez, the development of Suarez, the development of Bohm, the development of Stott, Marsh, really the development of the young players has kind of propelled the Phillies to this, what is now a historic start.
Yeah, you tweeted the other day that the narrative that the Phillies haven't beaten anybody is ridiculous. Yeah. I'm looking around. There's just not really anybody to beat. But you said there are 3 super teams. The Phillies are just, look, the Braves, the Dodgers, and everybody else have had the opportunity to beat up on a lot of mediocre to bad teams. They're not doing it. That's why the Phillies have won 72% of their games, and the other teams haven't. There's not a lot of good teams in the league to beat up on.
Yeah, and also I think the depth of the league, when people say there's not a lot of good teams in the league, I think that's a little deceptive because these teams are losing to the Phillies. It's almost like a chicken or an egg thing. Are these teams bad because they're bad, or are they bad because they're losing to the Phillies? They're losing to the Dodgers. They're losing to the Braves. So to me, the quality of the National League is probably the same as it's always been, but I think what you're seeing here is you have really 3 exceptional teams, and eventually it's going to even out a little bit. I mean, everybody plays the same schedule these days, so you're going to get tested, but good teams beat bad teams. And to me, Mike, it's the biggest thing. It's the biggest joke in the world. I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago. People should just sit back and enjoy this. This team has never had a start like this in its history. This team might be one of the best regular season teams in Philadelphia Phillies history. Instead of trying to poke holes in it, it's Happy Hour Friday. Open up a cold one and just enjoy the fact that you're 37-14 and stop trying to pour water on it. Just turn on the TV and enjoy the game.
I agree with that. Let's have fun with this season. 93. That was fun because it came out of nowhere, right? I want to say, did it come out of nowhere? Did we think this team was going to be historically, good to start the year?
No, we didn't think this team was going to be 37-14. In fact, I thought at the beginning of the season that they might take a little bit of a step back or they might struggle, like they have the past 2 seasons. Obviously, there's a lot of promise with this team coming off the World Series appearance in 22 and, the NLCS appearance in 23. But we didn't see this coming. So it's somewhat unexpected, but yet we know that this is this team's window, right? If we had a circle like a window for this group, we probably circle this year and next year as a year where the window is wide open for it to win a World Series. So, yeah, no one saw this historic start season coming, but don't question it. Just enjoy it. Turn on the TV, watch the games, follow it. They're entertaining. They win in close ways. They hit home runs. They pitch well. The games don't take 4 hours. Most of the games are over in 2.5 hours. I mean, it's been an ideal season so far, and I think people just need to stop finding fault with it and just, thank the lucky stars that it's happening to them.
Well, Mike, and I said this earlier, how many teams, Trey Turner was hitting 343 with a 390 on base. It's not like he was struggling like he was last year. And how many teams can pull a Trey Turner from their lineup and not blink an eye? I mean, that's
right, exactly.
That is pretty unusual there. All right, you mentioned it. Let's have fun with it, but it is Memorial Day. You start to go to that next phase of baseball, the trade deadline. Dave Dombrowski was on a podcast the other day, and he said, look, I don't like to make trades too early. I don't want to give away stuff before the deadline because if then something happens, I've given stuff away, so he likes to wait. But if they are thinking about things, so I'll ask you a couple things. You got the Marsh versus left-handed pitching. It doesn't seem that they want him to face lefties. So Merrifield and Pache, or do they need to upgrade the right-handed platoon to Marsh?
Well, I think if Merrifield and Pache do not hit any better than they have hit so far this season, you might go out there and look for a right-handed versatile bat to upgrade your bench. I listen to that same podcast that you listen to, Mike, the Joel Sherman, John Heyman, New York Post podcast, and I thought what Dave Dombrowski said made a lot of sense. He said he doesn't like to make trades in Memorial Day in June because you don't know what your needs are going to be around the trade deadline. Somebody could get hurt between now and then you might need to go out and make a deal. So if it's me, I'm giving Merrifield, from Memorial Day to, the trade deadline to kind of pull his act together. This is the role he was signed for. If he doesn't put his act together and he continues to struggle, then I think a right-handed bat off the bench is an option. But I'm going to give Merrifield, I guess the next 2 months to prove himself, basically.
All right. The other, I guess, thing you're going to hear a lot about is bullpen closer. Do you like the closing situation? Alvarado, Hoffman got the save yesterday. Or do they really need to be a legitimate World Series lockdown team, have that guy, the ninth inning guy, or is it okay with the mix that they currently have?
I'm okay with the mix, but if I can go out and get another right-handed reliever and a right-handed guy who can close, who has experience closing, I'm going to go do that, regardless of what how they play over the next 2 months. Because to me, you can never have too much pitching, and if you can get a right-handed guy in that bullpen with closing experience, I'm going to go out there and make that deal. I think that's what could put them over the edge or over the top.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. Phillies out in Colorado this weekend, so you would imagine they have an opportunity for their 8th series sweep. They only had 7 all of last year. They already have 7. They're playing a Colorado team that is 16-33. They have swept them once. We'll see if they sweep them again. And Mike will be back on Monday. You got any stuff? Stuff on pause this weekend with the Memorial Day holiday? You getting some time off there?
Yeah, a little bit of a pause here with the NCAA kind of taking off the Memorial Day weekend. There's a smattering of games, but mostly things pick back up on Tuesday with the softball and baseball on Tuesday and Wednesday. So the NCAA kind of shutting it down high school-wise for a little bit of Saturday and Sunday, Monday, Memorial Day weekend there. So we'll be back in action on Tuesday, covering all the great local high school baseball, softball, lacrosse, track and field, everything that goes with the spring.
Absolutely. We're winding down the seasons. I know the Nationals are up the Nationals are up at Cooper River this weekend for the Crew season. We've got baseball playoff games started yesterday. So this is coming down to the nitty-gritty for the high school season. Mike McGarry, everybody. We'll be back on Monday to take a look back at the weekend that was and get us ready for next week. Actually, no, we're off Monday. We won't talk to Mike again until Wednesday. Thanks, Mike.
All right, there we go. All right, enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll see you down the road. Thanks.
All right, there's Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com, as we catch up here on a Sports Bash Happy Hour Friday. Now, Happy Hour Friday is one of those things where we like to have a lot of fun, but as this text message came in, it says, yes, Mike Gill, quit looking for faults, you Debbie Downer. I'm not looking for any faults. I said have fun with this team. I'm saying, look, this is a ways down the road. These are the only things that you can find, and that's a great problem to have. There is nothing. That's what I was saying earlier there to that text message is most people want to try to find stuff. I said you really can't. If these are the things you can find, you just sit back and enjoy the summer. Enjoy the season. That's all. Look, Brandon Marsh, to me, I said earlier, you can't move that guy. He's too much of the glue. He's too important to the clubhouse and this team. So even if you're saying that's an issue, you got to just wait it out and see if it really becomes an issue. It's a Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Bob Blanco at 3:30 today. We'll talk some more Phils with us. His newsletter, RedOctoberPhilly.com. Adam Kaplan for Football at 4, Mike Missinelli from the Mike Missinelli podcast. And let us know, what are you having this Happy Hour Friday, this Memorial Day weekend? Let's crank it up. Let's get it going. 609-403-0973. What are you having this weekend for Happy Hour Friday? I have some great picks for you guys out there. We appreciate everybody listening, everybody watching on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SB Live. More Sports Bash coming up on 97.3 ESPN.
It's this Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
2:52 on a Happy Hour Friday. It's a Memorial Day weekend for everybody out there. Hopefully you'll enjoy the weekend. Let's get involved at 609-403-0973 on the text board. Text in your Happy Hour Friday picks for this Memorial Day weekend. We already got some people starting early with the surf sides. We got a Bullet Rye. A lot of surf sides this week. Look at all the surf sides coming in on the text board. A lot of Happy Hour Friday. Use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday with your name and where you're from to be involved in the Tim Dillon tickets. Comedian Tim Dillon is going to be at Ocean Casino Resort tomorrow night in Atlantic City. Awesome show at Ovation Hall. Just a great place to watch a show, by the way. But he is performing there tomorrow night. Hashtag Happy Hour Friday. Name and where you're from. We have 5 pairs of tickets we're going to be giving away throughout the day. We will contact you, and your name will be at will call if you are a winner for this Happy Hour Friday. We know that the Phillies are having a tremendous summer, and they're playing out in Colorado. Kind of stinks, right? Memorial Day weekend, no Phils in town. In fact, the Phils are going to be away. That means you get those late-night Memorial Day weekend games. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, could it be both? I mean, in my mind, I like the idea of a Phillies game in the afternoon on the deck kind of deal, but, you know, maybe a late night that gives you time during the day to go to the beach, do all you want to do, and then kick back at night.
See, I kind of like it for a couple of reasons. On a Friday night, you know, you're going out, having some dinner, and then the Phillies game's on at 8:40, gives you a little reason to stay out a little later. Hey, Phillies game's on still. Right. Go to dinner, the game's not on, so you don't have to worry about the game, missing the game while you're out to dinner. Saturday, 9:10. Hey, stay out a little later. Yeah. Sunday, 3:10. A little recovery time. Then the game's on. Just a little siesta on the couch. Repump it back up. Monday, 5:05. It's an interesting time while you're out there lighting up the old barbecue. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, when reality kicks back in, and you have a 9:45 game on Tuesday night. That's no fun. But I think the Memorial Day weekend, being out west, kind of helped out the Phillies fans for a little fun in the sun. Fun on a Happy Hour Friday. War coming up. It's the most popular Phils. We got that coming up next.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort studio, here's Mike Gill.
It is a Happy Hour Friday on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live on the X platform, live video at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SB Live to find the show. We've got Bob Wankel doing a little fills at the bottom of the hour. We've got Mike Missinelli coming up at 5. We got football at 4. But we've been locked in on this Phillies team, which is currently the best team in baseball. And, you know, you take a look at people's criticisms of the schedule and whatever else. I don't know that there's much else other than the schedule. We've heard the schedule thing before, and quite frankly, who gives a bleep, right? You play who you play, you beat them, and then when you get to the playoffs, you see what happens. Let's say there was a lot of good teams, and you just keep beating a lot of good teams, and people say, man, they're really beating a lot of good teams. And then you get to the playoffs and lose. Who gives a crap that you beat a lot of good teams? So beat the bad teams, beat the mediocre teams, beat the really good teams, and then when the playoffs get here, do your job. Be the best team. You know, the Atlanta Braves never got, oh man, they won 102 games, but they beat a lot of bad teams to get there. How do you think you get to 102 wins? The path to 102 victories isn't by just beating good teams. To get to 100 wins, you got to beat a lot of crappy teams along the way to get there. Otherwise, you don't get 100 wins. You might win 90 games. There's a difference between a team that wins 100 games and 90 games and 85 games. But the problem is the difference comes out in the wash when you get to the playoffs. So I could care less if the Phillies, the narrative is that they're beating a lot of bad teams. Everybody has to beat a lot of bad teams if you want to win a lot of games. But winning a lot of games doesn't guarantee you squat, as we've seen in baseball a lot. We know that. But you are allowed to have fun with sports. You are allowed to have fun in the regular season. You are allowed to have fun and go along for the ride. So with having fun, you have a lot of popular players on your team. With having fun, you have a lot of people that the fans generally like, right? So who are those guys on this team? I think it's a really interesting makeup. You know, the 07, 8, 9, 10, 11, every time you talk about that team, when you ask questions, it's Howard, Utley, Rollins. Everybody's favorite player is generally either Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins from that group. Why? Because they were homegrown and they were there through the whole run. You might have some people that like Chooch. You might like people that like Cole Hamels. You might have people that, like Shane Victorino. But the general population likes the stars. And the stars of that team were evident. Ryan Howard was an MVP. Jimmy Rollins was an MVP. And Chase Utley kind of personified what Phillies baseball and being a Phillies fan was. He hustled. He just left it all out there all the time. Who are the most popular guys on this team? I think it's a really interesting question. As we get to Memorial Day weekend, you're going to start seeing some friends from another state populating our area and generating more people down here. And with that, you'll see jerseys, and the Phillies will be on the radio on the beach, and the Phillies will be on TVs and establishments all over the place. You'll probably see Phillies red and T-shirts and all sorts of stuff. And you'll probably see some jerseys. So which jerseys will we be seeing at the beach? Which jerseys will we be seeing at the bars? Which jerseys is the most popular jersey for this group of guys?
So, Mike, I compiled a list of the best-selling jerseys of the current Phillies team. Now, I left out any other players from any other era just so we could focus on this team, right? So, if folks want to read the full list, they can go to 973ESPN.com. But for you, Mike, I want to know how many of these you can guess. Now, I will preface this by saying no cream jerseys made the list, Mike. So none of the creams. It's all white with a red pinstripe, road uniform, City Connect. None of the other jerseys are on this list.
Wait, so I have to actually identify the player and the jersey.
If you want to go the extra step,
the red, the
no
City
red.
Connect version of this player.
If you just name the player, I'll tell you how many times on the list.
All right, well, I would imagine that Bryce Harper is number one.
Bryce Harper has the number one jersey. It is the white pinstripe jersey. Bryce Harper also has the number 4 baby blue Phillies jersey. And the Harper City Connect jersey is the 8th best-selling jersey.
Okay. Any of the City Connects, I would be disappointed in people who bought those.
Why are you going to be disappointed in this list?
Wow. The City Connects are selling that well.
More than I expected.
Okay, so Bryce Harper's number 1.
Yes. Number 1 overall is the white pinstripe.
All right. And this is where it gets difficult. Who is the second, jersey that you would see? I'm going to say, man, I don't think there's an obvious answer here. I mean, I'm going to go with JT Realmuto.
JT Realmuto is not number 2. JT Realmuto's home white pinstripe jersey is number 9.
That's a little lower on the list than I thought.
You want another guess, or we just give it to you?
What, number 2?
Yeah.
Well, Well, if it's not JT Realmuto and he's number 9, I was way off on that. I would guess that number 2 would be maybe Kyle Schwarber then?
Kyle Schwarber is not number 2. Kyle Schwarber is number 10.
All right. Which one's that?
The white home pinstripe.
Okay. What about Bryson Stott?
Bryson Stott is number 2.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Like Bryson Stott, I get it. He's popular, but number 2 on the team?
The most popular song. Right? A-OK.
The song is very popular. You know, that is... It's the most unbelievable thing ever, by the way, how popular that guy sung. Like, his walk-up song... I don't know if I can say this.
You could try to say it.
His walk-up song has almost become more recognizable and is iconic's not the word, but than Chase Utley's Kashmir.
Yeah.
Like when Kashmir played, you knew Chase Utley was coming up.
And the whole building would stop.
Yeah, it was more of a hush when you heard that.
Yep.
This is just the whole place just takes over the song.
It does.
It's unbelievable. I don't know, like, I couldn't tell you what Jimmy Rollins' walk-up music was. I can't remember Ryan Howard's.
Nope.
You know Bryson Stott is coming to the plate, period, point blank.
And he's got the number 2 selling jersey.
That's crazy.
All the current Phillies.
Good for him, man. He's more popular than I thought. I mean, I know he's popular, but you're telling me he's now more popular than JT, who's been here a pretty long time, by the way.
Schwarber.
And Schwarber. JT was here before those guys.
He was.
You notice I haven't gone to any of the pitchers.
There are pitchers on this list, but they're not in the top 3.
Yeah, I was going to say. So my third guess, wow, if Stott's number 2, Trey Turner, I mean, I just feel like Turner has not connected. Even though he's having a good year, he got off to such a bad start, and he just didn't feel like, and then he did have a good ending, but it just doesn't feel like Turner has connected with the fans. But I guess some people were so excited when he got signed that they went out and bought his jersey.
Trey Turner has the number 3 selling jersey, Mike, but it's not the jersey you think. The number 3 selling jersey is the City Connect Trey Turner jersey. His home white pinstripe is number 12, and his baby blue is number 13.
Wow. So the City Connect, why would people like just say, for Trey Turner, I want the City Connect one, but for other guys, I want the home white? That doesn't make a lot of sense. This is a really bizarre list. Where'd you get this list?
MLB Shop.
Wow.
The MLB official website.
All right, so it's not like one of these things that like we polled 1,000 people.
Nope.
No.
I went directly to the MLB Shop source.
All right.
I thought that was the safest thing to do.
So Stott and Turner are surprising to me, being 2 and 3.
Right. And then you mentioned Harper. He's number 4 with the baby blue. Now you're at number 5.
I got to throw Marsh in there somewhere. He's got to be in the top 10 with one of his jerseys. He's such a popular guy.
Marsh is number 5, home white pinstripe. Number 5.
A little surprised by that, but I know how popular he is. But, you know, usually, you know, a platoon player is not getting his jersey sold that much, but this is how crazy this fan base has been for this team, and that's how important he is.
Well, Mike, you mentioned the 93 team. Half that team was a platoon, basically, and those guys were crazy popular.
Yeah, but like Milt Thompson and Pete Incaviglia, I'm sure their jerseys were not up there, and Jim Eisenreich, and you know, I don't think their jerseys...
Jim Eisenreich was very popular.
Yeah, but I don't know that they had the most selling jersey. I could be wrong about that. You know, on that team, you're probably getting Kruk, Dalton, Dykstra, Kurt Schilling. Like, you know, notice on this list, we haven't named a pitcher yet, which is really odd because their pitching is that dominant.
There are pitchers on this list, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
See, Wheeler, just not a... Him and Nola just don't say anything. I mean, they just don't connect with... That's the weird part about this team. It's a likable team. They're fun.
Right.
But... And their pitching is really the star of this team when you think about it. I mean, Harper's the star player.
Harper's the superstar, but the pitchers are the stars, plural, of the team.
Now, I got a couple of my buddies. I've had multiple people text me, Nola. Nola's like the least liked of the pitchers. Like everybody wanted him to they wanted to get rid of him. He's been here the longest. Suarez is a popular guy. Like Suarez, people like, there was that video of him dancing with the 3 beers in his hand, the goggles on his head, and he's just like living in his own little world. Like Suarez is the Marsh. Suarez is the Stott. He's the other guy. Wheeler is the Harper. Nola to me would be more like JT. He's like been here, and he's kind of almost like down the list just because of like the ups and downs that he has put people through. I'm going to go with Wheeler next.
Wheeler is number 7. His City Connect is the number 7 best-selling jersey. Also, Wheeler is on the list with the 15th best-selling jersey, the home white pinstripe.
Okay.
So he's twice on the list.
All right.
So you still have to get number 6.
I don't think it's a bullpen guy.
There are no bullpen guys in the top 50.
50?
Yeah, I went through 50, but I took out the guys who were like, past players.
Okay. There's past players on the list?
So if you go to the MLB official list, the MLB shop, there are older players like Roy Halladay's jerseys, the top 50.
Oh, see, I would have liked to try to get some of those.
There's others like that.
That would have been a fun game to try to incorporate, because I do feel like there's this, the Phillies' history is filled with gaps of lousiness.
Yes.
You have pockets of greatness. You have this team right now that's been to a World Series, lost an LCS, and now you're off to this historic start. So this is a pocket of like a good term. The last one they had in 7 to 11.
I can tell you what the number 1 selling retired Phillies jersey is. If you
probably
guess
Schmidt.
That. Nope.
Carlton.
Nope.
Richie Ashburn.
Not even close. You said his name earlier.
Utley.
Nope.
Rollins.
No.
Dykstra.
You got the right team at least.
Kruk.
Dalton.
Oh, wow.
The Dutch Dalton maroon with the white numbers and letters.
Really?
That's the number 1 selling retired jersey in the MLB shop.
For the Phillies.
For the Phillies.
Wow. Okay, that's a surprise. All right, so what number do I need on this team?
You need number 6.
Got Harper, Stott, Turner.
You got Wheeler.
Got Wheeler, got Marsh. It's not Rojas. It's not Castellanos. Real Muto's number 9. Is it Bohm?
Bohm is number 6.
Wow.
The white pinstripe Bohm.
See, I'm a little, okay, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Bohm's another one where he was not liked, and then he said, I don't want to be here. Then he said, I do want to be here. And he turned
probably elevated his popularity that way.
Yeah, he turned his perception around. So, but I still like, he's still like a secondary player kind of, although his production is the top on the team right now.
Yeah, he's one of the leaders in baseball.
So he's 7 with what jersey?
He's number 6.
He's 6.
Yeah, number 7 is Wheeler, but these white pinstripe.
Boom.
Wheeler's number 8. You mentioned him.
JT's 9.
JT's 9. Schwarber, you mentioned, he's 10. Now we're at 11.
I can't believe Schwarber behind some of these guys. Wow. I mean, Schwarber's been here for 3 years now.
And he hits homers.
Is it just for this year?
This is this is as of right now, this year. This season's
So then it's got to be, there's only 2 more picks that I can come up with. It's either Nola or Suarez. I mean, Castellanos, I guess. Who the hell's buying a Castellanos jersey?
I hate to tell you, but they are.
I already got 10.
I'll tell you this really quick. Suarez is not in the top 50.
Suarez is not in the top 50.
People are not buying Ranger Suarez jerseys for some reason.
Wow, that's surprising to me.
But they're buying Castellanos jerseys.
That's really surprising to me.
Castellanos is number 11.
All right, so he's 11.
And then Trey Turner is 12 and 13. The white pinstripe is number 12. The baby blue is number 13. Now we're at 14. Remember, Zach Wheeler is also 15. So you need to get 14 and 16 are the last 2 you need to get.
Well, Nola has to be one of them.
14.
Okay.
White pinstripe.
And then there's a 16. Did somebody different?
Somebody different.
Huh. Well, I've hit every starter. So you're telling me it's a bench player?
He's not a bench player necessarily. He does play. It's not like it's like Stubbs or something.
Rojas?
Rojas.
Wow. Rojas has more jerseys sold than
Ranger
Suarez.
Yes.
That is unbelievable to me.
And it's the white home pinstripe, if you were wondering.
So, Johan Rojas jersey has sold more than Ranger Suarez. That's
correct.
criminal.
It's
and
also,
I like Rojas. Yeah. How is that possible?
It also has sold more than any of the Phillies road jerseys. So like the Phillies, because they sell the gray road jerseys too.
Were any of the gray? Wait, so none of the gray were in the top? How many?
50.
What?
The only grays in the top 50 are the ones that you can buy that you can put your name on it. They were actually not actually like the player jerseys.
Why is that? The gray ones of all the Phillies uniforms, I like the gray the best.
Really?
I just don't like the white with the red. I don't like the pinstripe.
Oh, I love the white with the red pinstripe.
I know a lot of people like the red.
It's crisp. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the red pinstripe.
Positive vibes.
Yeah, I don't like the red pinstripe. I'm not a big pinstripe guy.
What are you, anti-American?
I don't know. Our high school uniforms were pinstripe, and maybe that had
you have
something
bad
to do with it.
memories.
Yeah, I don't know. We had green pinstripe. We looked ridiculous.
Green is a little weird for a pinstripe. I will give you that.
Yeah, I don't like the red pinstripe.
I just think it looks so crisp and clean.
The baby blues I'm okay with. I'm not like, these are awesome. I don't like the cream.
I'm not a fan of the cream. I like the baby blue better than the cream, but I feel like the baby blue is more for like people like Billy Schwein who like Von Hayes memories.
Are the City Connects growing on anybody?
I mean, not for me, but apparently on this list, there's a lot of people buying.
Well, I mean, I think the list of people, it's just like it's new. They want to go out and get the new thing, and that's like, what are they going to do with that jersey next year?
Are they going to change it next year? That's right, they are, because they're going to come out with a new version of the jerseys next year because of the situation with the current
they can
jerseys.
still make the same one.
Well, they could potentially make a new one.
Like, for instance, the St. Louis Cardinals City Connect. Have you seen them?
I have not.
They're pretty good.
I'll look them up.
They're about the only one so far that I've liked that makes some sense. They're red. They look like the Cardinals jerseys. They say the Lou on them. And it's like I think it's like they have like the bat, St. Louis, the Lou.
Oh, that's cool. And they got the Cardinal on each side.
Yeah, like the old
bat.
school, like the Cardinals jerseys back when they wore the powder blue with the Cardinals like hanging out on the bat.
Like that actually looks cool. It also has the STL on the hat.
Yeah, no, their City Connects
That's
are one
a
of
winner.
the few that I've said, okay, those connect. It connects with the team, the colors, the scheme, all that stuff. The Phillies City Connect, I just can't connect with.
I hate the City Connect.
You're not connecting me with. They're wearing them. They're home Phillies games.
Every
right?
Friday home game.
Just home games, so they won't be wearing them tonight. I'm
No,
saying, like,
thank
maybe
God.
tonight I'll give them another shot.
Not tonight.
I'll wear them tonight. The Darren Dalton thing surprised. Where's that on the list?
I'm actually pulling that back up right now. So, but it was the highest selling of all the retired players.
I would have thought Kruk, only because, he's a popular broadcaster. Kruk's down in Ocean City right now, or he was. I know they were talking about that. He's tweeting, and maybe he's listening to us. Kruk, your jersey, I see a lot. I mean, you had the old maroon pinstripe when Kruk was here. He wore like the maroon with the fat P.
Correct.
That's not on the list, Kruk?
Kruk is on the list.
I was going to say, I would think that Kruk, just because, now he was a popular player, by the way, in 93 on that team. He was probably one of I would say, Dalton, Dykstra, Kruk, Schilling, Mitch Williams, maybe?
Mitch is not on the top 50. So
those
Dalton,
other guys were?
So Dalton was the number one. Number two, do you want to guess who number two was? Not
Dalton's
Kruk.
number one on that team.
Of the retired players.
Oh, of the retired players.
Yes.
So Utley's got to be here.
Nope.
You're telling me Utley is not one of the most popular jerseys?
Oh, he's on the list, but he's not number two.
Halladay?
Roy Halladay.
Okay.
And it's the red, like the spring training red Halladay.
Oh. See, I like the red Philly spring training red.
So maybe you like this shirt.
I like the gray the best, but I do like their red Phillies spring training that they don't wear anymore.
Yeah, it's the red jersey.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. It was the spring training one that they stopped doing that because Nike, when they did these City Connects, they had to get. I don't know why there's a limit then. If you're already exploiting people by making them pay for another jersey, why not just offer another one?
Right.
You know.
I'm going to give you number 3 because you're not going to guess number 3. Number 3 is the baby blue Pete Rose, which shocked me.
I might have got to that.
Honestly, that shocked me. I would have never guessed Pete Rose of all people.
Yeah, no, I do see the Pete Rose zipper up. It's the zipper up baby blue. That one, the baby blue zipper up is Pete Rose, Carlton, Schmidt. Like those three, you see a lot of the zipper up, right?
Yeah, it's almost gone, by the way, apparently.
Yeah, those ones you do see a lot, especially at spring training. You see a lot of people rocking those bad boys.
All right, so you want to guess who's after Pete Rose?
Well, I got to think Schmidt's on the list.
Schmidt is not in the top 50.
You got to be kidding me.
It's MLB Team Shop here.
So Utley, Rollins?
It's Utley. Utley's number 4. And then number 5 is Roy Halladay again. It's the blue jersey with the red Phillies across the front.
So I'd like to know. I got a lot of text messages here. Is this? This is going back to. Here's one. So this is an interesting question. So if you guys are out there listening, do you have a jersey and who is it? And if you don't have a jersey, who you buying? 609-403-0973. I want those to come in throughout the show because I want to see if it kind of matches this list.
By the way, number 50. You mentioned it earlier, Lenny Dykstra.
Lenny's still selling. He's still selling jerseys.
Still selling jerseys, man.
A common debate among friends. This is a text on the text board. It says, thoughts on having your own name on the jersey. I liked it for my kids when they were younger. Also, a T-shirt changes the conversation. Tom and Cape May Courthouse.
Well, this is a jersey-only list.
Right. No, he's asking another question, Josh. You got to separate from that list and his question now. All right? He says, what's your thoughts on having your own name on the jersey? I mean, I would say, first off, I'm not a jersey guy, but I would be out on that. Now, the only way that I think it works is if your name is also the name of a player.
Right. So, if you got a jersey of another guy named Gill who played.
Right. Like a lot of people during the Eagles era, Deshaun Jackson, you could have had a Jackson. Jackson's a common last name.
Sure.
A Smith is a common last name.
Right.
I don't know what Tom and Cape May Courthouse is, but if your name's Rosinski, Rosinski looks a little ridiculous on the back of the jersey. There's no player on the team. I'm kind of out. Now, he's saying I liked it for my kids when they were younger. I get it. Like, the kid feels he's cool, I guess, because he has his own name on the jersey as opposed to the player's name on the jersey.
I guess.
I don't know.
I mean, when I was a kid, the only one that I was ever given was a T-shirt jersey that had Dykstra on the back.
Yeah. All right. Well,
then I tried to play center field and realized my depth perception stunk.
609-403-0973. This guy just texted in is probably the leader in the clubhouse so far. There's I think our old buddy Pat Gallen, he has a list of the different jerseys he sees at Citizens Bank Park, and he has a running tab. He's like, I saw a guy who had this jersey, and it's the funnier the better. Someone just texted in and he says, I own a Sosa jersey and I'm proud.
Wow.
It's a great jersey.
That's a winner.
Where do you get a Sosa jersey? You got to get that specially made, right?
I mean, it's not in the top 75 on this list. I just went down to 75. It's not on there.
I would imagine he's one of the few that has a Sosa jersey.
Was that custom ordered is what I want to know.
609-403-0973. You have a jersey? Who is it? You want a jersey? Who do you want? Bob Wankel, RedOctoberPhilly.com. Joins us on the other side to talk a little Phils at Memorial Day weekend. That's coming up next. They're out in Colorado. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live on the X platform. Live video at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
You're listening.
Summer concerts, pool parties, chill nights under the stars. We're stocking up our closet so you're ready to look your best for all of it. At Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston, we're buying all things summer. So bring in your tees, tote bags, sandals, sunglasses, and more. We pay cash on the spot for gently loved name brand looks. Plato's Closet is the go-to destination for trend-forward teens and young adults who support local and shop sustainable. Visit Plato's Closet today. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
With Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
3:32 if you're heading down the shore. We welcome you to the Sports Bash Happy Hour Friday edition. I'm Mike Gill. Bob Wankel joins us on Fridays as we take a look at the Phillies weekend. And a lot of these weekends, Bob, seem to be filled with wins. They're playing Colorado, so it could be another sweep. That would be 8 sweeps. This Colorado team is the anti-Phillies. They suck. They're horrible. We'll talk more about it. Bob Wankel, as we were just talking about the highest selling jerseys for the Phillies. Some of the names on this list really surprised me, man. We know Bryce Harper is number 1. Who would you guess is number 2?
Oh, number 2 on this team right now, Ranger Suarez, I'm going to say.
Wow, you go Ranger Suarez, which is funny because I said Rangers got to be in there. You know, Ranger Suarez is not in the top 50.
Interesting. I would think, you get the last out of the NLCS 2 years ago. Everybody loves the guy. He's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that. So here's the second. Give me the second one then.
Okay, first off, Johan Rojas has sold more jerseys than Ranger Suarez. That blew me away. The fact that
that's
Suarez...
That's really preposterous.
Yes,
that's
now...
Terrible investment, too.
Terrible investment. Number 2 on the list. Now, this is a hard one because, and this is a conversation we could have, Bob, is this team is fun. It's popular. But it's really weird because, the teams from 08 to 11... You had stars that were the most popular. Everybody was Utley, Rollins, Howard, that crew. Here, you got Bryce Harper, and then the next guy is who is that next guy? The number 2 jersey suggests that it is Bryson Stott. Are you surprised that he is that high on the totem pole? I know his walk-up song has almost surpassed Utley's Cashmere.
So I don't know if you know Tim Kelly at Phillies Nation, right? But I sat there about 2 years ago, right around now, and I said, man, it's a shame that they're bad. Because remember, at the time, they were playing really bad baseball right around Memorial Day. I said, it's a shame because if they ever get to the playoffs and this kid's any good, I said, this walk-up song's going to be awesome in October. I didn't know what we were in for the next couple of years. But I guess I'm not totally surprised by that. If you gave me enough guesses, I probably would have landed him 3rd or 4th. I guess I'm a little bit surprised that, Nola, somebody that's been here forever, isn't up there, or Turner, with the big money contract, and even Real Muto, who's a, star level player and has been here for a handful of years now. But man, yeah, Stott, how about that?
Real Muto
over Suarez thing, I'm having a hard time with that.
Well, the fact is, Suarez isn't even in the top 50. This includes Harper's number 1. He's also number his City Connect is number 4. His Blue is number, but he doesn't have one in the top 50. Not one in the top 50 is unbelievable. But you're right, the Stott thing. We were just talking about, the fact that his jersey is the second. I'm man, more than Real Muto, more than Schwarber. Schwarber has been here for 3 years now. You would think he would have caught on. The weird part about this team is the pitchers. The pitchers, it almost they're the star of the team, but Harper overshadows them. But they just have no personality, this pitching staff.
Yeah, you know what, though? I think that kind of is part of what makes them good. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. I mean, with Aaron Nola, especially with Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, after a game, you're down there in the clubhouse and you're interviewing these guys, and you wouldn't know if they went 7 innings and gave up 1 run or if they went 2 innings and gave up 7 runs. You just have no clue. They really are even-keel guys, and you see that. Even yesterday's game, you go back to that 7th inning. Zach Wheeler is cruising in that game, and then he gets to the 2 outs in the 7th, and he runs into some trouble. He gives up a run, the bases are loaded. It looks like the game's getting away from him, but he doesn't waver. He bears down, gets the out, and I think that kind of speaks to exactly what we're talking about here. These guys are just very centered, They don't get overly emotional, and I think that helps them over the course of 162 games.
Yeah, I mean, the Wheeler thing, it's like I almost feel like he never talks. And then Nola, he's just such a quiet guy. Suarez, going back to the thing that's surprising, is I feel like everybody saw that video of Suarez with the 3 beers in his hand and the goggles on his head, and he's just dancing in his socks. That was the most personality that you've seen out of anybody on the entire pitching staff. So that's another reason why it's so weird. But we're looking at Memorial Day weekend and how much fun this summer might be. It's a fun team that just is a weird, dynamic in terms of the popularity. Because, again, the stars almost aren't the most popular players on this team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Brandon Marsh is a guy that is essentially a platoon outfielder, and he's immensely popular with the fans. And you said it, Bryson Stott's a younger kid that comes up, homegrown. He's been really productive, and people kind of gravitate towards him. I think even some of the personality out of the bullpen. I think you look at guys like Alvarado, you look at Strahm and Hoffman. They're both real fiery guys. It's a very likable team. And here's one thing I'll say. I mean, look, if you go back to 93, I was 8 years old during the 93 season. That's when I fell in love with baseball. That's when I fell in love with the Phillies. And I thought that those guys in that moment were the greatest. Ragtag, a bunch of guys thrown together, doing it, even though they're all over the hill, they're past their primes, and they make this remarkable run. But you come to find out in time that those guys weren't great guys, a lot of them. In fact, quite the opposite. This group of guys, and it's not like we know all of them intimately, all 26 guys, but in that clubhouse that there's a lot of good human beings in there, really nice guys. They care about one another. They care about the fans. They care about their families, a lot of good family guys in there. It's a good group of human beings, and I think most people feel that way, and I think it shows. I think it kind of comes across a little bit too.
Yeah, that's one of the things about this team is it just seems like a bunch of fun guys that are good people too. I mean, you look at around this thing, Bryce Harper's got to be one of the nicest human beings possibly out there. The whole, the fact that somebody knocks on his door and asks a girl to the prom for him, that's a pretty stand up move by him. But one of the things too about this team that's a little, we were talking about there's almost you don't have anything to complain about. And I said the one thing that you complain about maybe is all right, do you look at that? Marsh, obviously they don't want him hitting against lefties. But do they like the other options enough, or is that something that they're going to have to think about? And then you can't do anything with Marsh. I can't see them moving forward by just phasing Marsh out or even moving him. So it's almost you have to accept that he's and that's okay. I'm not trying to get Marsh out of here by any stretch, but I'm just saying, do they think Merrifield's the guy, Pache's the guy, or is that something they're kind of keeping their eye on?
Here's what I wonder. I think that they're starting enough of a sample about Johan Rojas where they're thinking to themselves, okay, we know the deal. If he plays really good defense and everyone else hits, we can kind of get away with this. What I would be interested in seeing here over the next few weeks is Christian Pache getting a little bit more time. And not because I think that he's necessarily going to be some market upgrade, especially offensively. I think there's a little bit more in his offensive game at the moment. Even though he hasn't been terribly productive. But I think that if you're the Phillies, you kind of have to be in an information gathering mode right now. And what I mean by that is, okay, you're giving Johan Rojas the best to see if he can handle the expectations of this year and give them enough to push them over the edge and win a championship. But in doing that, I think you also have to evaluate what you have in Christian Pache because, in theory, they are somewhat redundant. Right-handed hitting, more defensive-minded players, a little bit light offensively, and they're probably going to have to add to this outfield mix, but how do they do that? Do they bring the bat in and let Rojas play and continue to develop at the major league level and then get rid of Christian Pache? Or do they let Pache play some center, send Rojas down and add that bat? If that's a decision they're probably going to have to make at some point, because I really don't think when you get to August 1 and beyond, it's going to be both Pache and Rojas. I guess I'd be surprised if it played out that way.
Bob Wankel, RedOctoberPhilly.com. Crossing Broad covers the Phillies. And, of course, Phillies are out in Colorado, which is a terrible baseball team. Then they're out in San Francisco. I kind of like the Memorial Day weekend West Coast games, Bob. What do you think about that? You got the, tonight night. You got an 8:40 start. You go out to dinner. You're not missing any of the game. Dinner's over. Hey, hon, like the Phil's game's on. We can stay out a little longer. You know,
I was just going to say, it's perfect for the drinkers out there, right? Like
it works out pretty well.
You take care of your dinner obligations, your family obligations. 8:40 rolls around, you kind of crack it open, and you're rolling through like the 10:30, 11 o'clock hour, man. Like that's a nice little setup on a Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, tomorrow you got 9:10, so it gives you an extra half hour, and then on Sunday a little 3:10 start, so you can kind of let it take get your energy
back.
Take
off that hangover, maybe get a couple mimosas in you on Sunday morning. Yeah.
It's a good setup. I like this little West Coast thing. You wrote about this over at Crossing Broad. About the Phillies, and it kind of popped in at the end of the article there on Ranger Suarez. Plus, you got Suarez number 2 now, Wheeler number 3. It's a plus 300. He's the leader in the clubhouse. But if I'm giving you $100 right now, who do you feel better putting that money on?
Probably Zach Wheeler. There's just more of a pedigree there, and
but isn't the pedigree why he's the leader right now, not the numbers?
Yes, I think so. I think if you're going strictly by numbers, Suarez has probably outperformed Wheeler, but I just think that there's a likelihood that Zach probably holds up over 32 a little bit more on a consistent basis. I mean, I certainly think he'll end up throwing more innings. And when you come to awards like that, name and pedigree does matter a little bit. Can give you a little bit of an advantage, but I think that it's also a decent bet to think that both of these guys would finish within the top 7 or 8 at the end of the year in voting. I mean, we're not through an inconsequential stretch of games here. It's not like these guys have made 3 starts. They're basically a third of the way through their allotment of starts for a year. So, I mean, you get to Memorial Day and things start to materialize a little bit. This is like the first mile marker. When people are evaluating what they have in a team, this is usually like the first time that they sit down and say, all right, what do we really have here? And so what these guys have done has been nothing short of remarkable, and it's been very much real. This is not smoke and mirrors with these guys, especially, with Ranger Suarez. I think there's some thought, like, is this for real? And I think that the signs point to yes. I really do. It's not just about ERA. Like, go and dig into each individual metric. Do yourself a favor if you have a couple minutes. Go to Fangraphs, go to leading the statistical leaders for pitching, go to starting pitchers, and just go through every single category. And Ranger Suarez is the top 6 in all of them. He's been phenomenal.
He's been, we were talking about, Imanaga has been maybe better with the ERA. He doesn't have as many wins, but the whip is not as good. I'm kind of a whip guy. I like whip as my number. That means, it's hard to score when you're not on base, but those two guys have had the best peripherals, I think, of anybody in the league right now. Suarez and Imanaga. I think Wheeler is the favorite based on his pedigree more than the season he's had, which has been really good. That tells you how good Suarez has been. But, Dombrowski talked about this in a podcast the other day, about him being here for the full time. And he seemingly said that their pitchers changed their approach in spring training, this year. And that's why he thinks, the staff as a whole. And I think that's what makes this team unbelievably tough to beat in a series is there's no nights off. You get to the 4th and 5th guy, you're still kind of grinding out a game.
Yeah, look, and one of the things that they're doing remarkably well is throwing a lot of innings. Like, they've already thrown more innings or more games with 7 innings or more than 10 teams did all of last year.
Wow.
And that's how good they've been and how deep they're going into games. You know what's ironic is that Taijuan Walker is supposed to be the innings eater guy, right? He's the one that hasn't gone 7 full innings yet. You are not expecting Christopher Sanchez to go 7 innings. That wasn't really his thing. Like, hey, if we get 5 quality innings out of him, that's a win for us. I mean, we're at a point with him where he's even going deeper into games now. So, you expect it from Nola, you expect it from Wheeler, you're getting it from Sanchez, and now you're getting it from Suarez. And when you have 4 guys that every time they pick up the ball, you're almost thinking, like, I'm penciling in 6. I might get 7. That really adds up over time. It can give your bullpen a huge advantage later in the year when a lot of teams are tired and they're running on fumes. I mean, to be able to eat that amount of innings from your rotation, you can get a real leg up on your competition late in the year.
Yeah, and the other thing that he mentioned on the podcast, which I think is really a big differentiator, in 2022 they go to the World Series. That was carried by the veteran players, really. Last year, you got a little bit more, from Bohm, Stott, but now Bohm, Stott, those younger players, they are now going to the forefront. That's what you need. We talked about this, you and I, back in March during spring training. Who's going to have a better year than they had last year? And Bohm and maybe Stott is on his way there now. But those two guys have gone from, hey, we're kind of here helping out, to now we're a big impact on this team. You put all that together, and now you're starting the makings of a historic type of run here.
Absolutely. I mean, they're getting contributions from everybody. I mean, those two guys that you talk about, I mean, Trey Turner, a lot of teams, if they lose a $30 million a year guy, are going to really feel it. And all this team does is say, here you go, Mendoza, be that guy for us. And he's basically giving you Trey Turner production right now. It's been amazing. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that they're getting, an uptick in production from a number of guys. Alec Bohm specifically. We've talked a lot about Alec Bohm over the years, and I'd like to think that I know a thing or two about this. I'm not always right. But I'm genuinely stunned. I mean, I know that he has a good approach. I know he's been a good two-strike hitter. This is not the first year where he's been good with runners in scoring position. But did I, 51 games into the year, have Alec Bohm on pace for roughly 150 runs batted in? No, I didn't. I got to be honest with you. I didn't see that one coming, man.
Oh, man. No, 150, no. But, hey, we'll see if he can keep this rock and rolling. Because, look, he was a high producer with runners in scoring position last year. He had a big RBI number last year. Now, this year he's going way over that. But will he be able to produce in the bigger moments? That's the next step for everybody here, right? You can win 110 games and whatever happens. That's why the whole, they're not beating anybody. The schedule's been what it is. To win 110 games, you got to beat a lot of bad teams to get there, right? It's what happens when you play all the good teams in the playoffs, because it all starts to come out in the wash. But have fun with this. Bohm having a great start. They need him. Stott, hopefully he can stay hot. They're going to need him because they've shown, Bob, the lineup has not been consistent enough come playoff time. That's been their big problem.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. One thing I have to say about the schedule thing, because this has become, I don't know if it's because the Phillies haven't been this good in 15 years, but I have never heard a team be scrutinized more about a schedule, a Major League Baseball team be scrutinized more about their schedule than this Phillies team. I mean, people are talking about this like it's the NFL. It's like if Dallas gets off to a 4-1 start and the Eagles are 2-3, and we're sitting there trying to rationalize it by saying, well, the Cowboys haven't played anybody. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And what I don't understand is if you go back to last season, the last 162 regular season games, dating back to about this time a year ago, the Phillies are 103-59. They've been doing this for a calendar year now. They certainly played good opponents at some point last year too, did they not? And oh, by the way, they were in the World Series two years ago. They were a game within the World Series last year. So this is not some lightning in a bottle type of situation. This team has played at a high level at different parts of the last 3 years, and over the last calendar year has been as good as anybody. So I really just don't understand the soft schedule talk at all. I just feel like it's kind of like something Braves fans are telling themselves, and people are trying to manufacture almost a talking point against what's been pretty much a perfect team so far. And there's going to be struggles. They're not going to win 116 games, or at least I don't think they are. and that'll happen, and there'll be a time for us to all get anxious and talk about what's wrong with this guy and what's wrong with that guy. But right now, I mean, you really got to go out of your way to come up with something.
You sure do, and right now you're right. They're about as perfectly put together as you can find. There's not a lot of complaints. We'll see what happens between now and the trade deadline that Dave Dombrowski will keep his eye on. Couple things we could talk about, but it's Memorial Day weekend. Why should we do it? We'll have a lot of fun and continue on this weekend in Colorado. Smoke them if you got them. All right, Bob. Take care, bud.
All right, Mike. Talk soon.
Get the newsletter, redoctoberphilly.com. Bob Wankel every Monday and Friday. He'll be back on Monday. We'll take a look back at the week. Actually, no, we're off on Monday. I keep saying that. I'm just used to it. You know what I mean? Sports Fast Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SB Live. We're going to do another call for the Tim Dillon tickets. We've got a couple of winners. We're going to throw out another opportunity for you to win. Use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday with your name and where you're from if you want to see comedian Tim Dillon tomorrow night at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. One night, tomorrow night, Ocean Casino, Atlantic City. Tim Dillon, the comedian, will be there. Use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday with your name and where you're from. We're doing our last round of winners right now, this hour on the Sports Bash. live on 97.3 ESPN.
Jersey 97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I give my heart and soul to this franchise, as so many of us do.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Kaplan's here, host of the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms and their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. We had Eagles OTAs this week. We had a good conversation with Colin Thompson about how important those OTAs were for a player like him. But what is happening at the OTAs this week? What are some of the storylines out there? We'll get into that. We'll look at the second part of the schedule. And we did have a little news this week around the team. Adam Kaplan, Devontae Parker, the wide receiver, he retired. We talked about him on Tuesday, but they did sign John Ross. Is this a replacement? Ross, kind of a surprise. He was at the rookie mini camps as like a tryout basis. But Ross is in, Parker is out.
Yeah, Mike, good to be with you. Yeah, so interesting story about John Ross. We put this out on Inside the Birds like 4 or 5 years ago. It was either 2019 or 2020. So the Eagles actually called the Bengals about John Ross when he was a Bengal. When he really struggled, Mike, through injuries, and the Bengals reached for him. This is one of these stories that, Mosher and I were doing local radio in Philly in 2017. And two things happened in that top 10. John Ross came out of nowhere to be the 9th pick overall, and he was really supposed to be an early to mid-second round pick. And this is the draft that when the Bears shocked the world and traded for Mitch Trubisky, we could not figure out who they were trading up for. So that was definitely an odd draft. That was actually here in Philly. John Ross has world-class speed. At least he had it. Now, as I understand it, his workout, what happens at a rookie tryout, you're actually practicing. His work that he did with the Eagles recently at that rookie minicamp was good enough to get him back here. He's guaranteed nothing. They'll see how he does the rest of OTAs. If he does well there, he'll go to the mandatory camp. If he does well in the mandatory camp, he goes to training camp, and then you see what he can do. I'll say this. Without Devontae Parker, I mean, there are jobs open. There are only 3 jobs that are guaranteed. I would tell you that Paris Campbell, unless he gets hurt, he's going to be their 3rd receiver. They don't know who their 4th, 5th, and if they want to keep a 6th is. They have no idea. They're all guys who really have not done much at all. The Eagles like Johnny Wilson a lot. Their 6th-round pick. As we noted, as soon as he was drafted, we were told he's not playing tight end. No matter what people are speculating, it's not happening. He actually confirmed that. Joseph Ngata's back. Austin Watkins is a guy they gave some guaranteed money to. They like him, but again, he's barely played in the NFL. He's sort of a young journeyman. It's bounced around a lot. Jacob Harris is my dark horse, so I follow his career pretty closely. Remember talking to the Rams how excited they were about him. His rookie camp in 21, and then he got to training camp, did great, and unfortunately suffered a torn ACL in 21. That was his rookie season, 4th rounder out of Central Florida. He played tight end in his college career, got moved to receiver, that got moved back to tight end. Now he's back at receiver with the Eagles. The Eagles are lining him up at receiver right now, I'm told, so he's a little bit older. He just turned 27, but you know what? That's the guy, if you're looking for someone to surprise in training camp. And again, this is so early, Mike. We're in OTAs, which is a passing camp. There's really not that. There's never anything definitive in OTAs. It's why we don't do, on our show Inside the Birds, Mike, we do an overview once they're done. We don't do play-by-play, but it's a waste of time. We give you what we call predictive information, if we can, about what it looks like after like 6 or 7 practices. We'll do that. But this kid, Jacob Harris, is a guy that people should have on the radar. The Eagles don't have any experience behind the top 3 guys, and they're looking for somebody now without Parker, and they're not done. I mean, they've got 3 OTAs, and obviously leading up to training camp to add another veteran.
Yeah, absolutely. The wide receiver spot, a little, we talked about Tuesday when Parker went and retired. I mean, I don't know if they were guaranteeing Parker to even make the team, but it's certainly eye-opening now that they don't have that outside guy. John Ross is in, former 9th pick, ran a 4.22 40. That put him on the map and we'll see what he brings when he gets to training camp. He gets a 1-year deal to come into Philadelphia with the Eagles for training camp, and which, by the way, the OTAs are paused for right now. They'll have a couple more sessions. I think on the 28th is when they're back at OTAs. But we know the schedule. That came out last Thursday. We started to break that down last week on the show, and we're kind of getting inside information from Adam on their games that we're looking at here. Take a look at the week 5. They'll have a bye. Last week we looked at the first 4 games. You can go back to our Friday show last week and watch that on the Football at 4. Week 6, they're going to play Cleveland here in Philadelphia. It's one of the few 1 o'clock games here. This was a playoff team last year, but it's going to have a different look this year.
Yeah, so we did on our Tuesday segment, we did the first 4 weeks, week 5 with a bye. Now week 6 is at home against the Browns, and this is October 13th at 1 o'clock start, as you said. Kevin Stefanski, head coach, he fired his former offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, who's now the OC in New England. He brought in Ken Dorsey, who got fired last season by the Bills. It's kind of odd how that works out, Mike. But the big story here, and it's a major story for this football team, is Deshaun Watson coming back. Talking to the Browns, they think he's going to be ready for training camp. I don't know how much he'll throw in training camp. He's coming off of major right shoulder surgery. He had 2 issues with it. He's not played good football since 2020. They're locked into his contract for 2 more seasons at fully guaranteed money.
Jeez.
Yeah, this season and next in 25, so they're stuck with him. Nobody would take him, obviously. Nick Chubb, their star running back, comes from major knee surgery. Because of, they really don't know what to expect from him, truly. I could just, when you talk to people, you could hear it in their voice. They love Nick Chubb. I mean, it's a great story of development, but he's been hurt a lot. It's why they brought in Deontay Foreman. They've got Naheem Hines, who they signed, also, who's coming up for torn ACL. So they've got some injury issues. Really good offensive line. Jim Schwartz running this wide 9. Everybody knows what that looks like. Really good defense. This will be a very competitive game. But where I think the Eagles will have their way is Watson has not played competent football in so long. I'm skeptical. He needs to show it to me before he plays the Eagles if he's back all the way and can play good football. Now, their offense, one more thing before we move on to Week 7, which will be the Eagles' first divisional game. They're going to play what we call more 11 personnel than 12. Why? Because they added Jerry Jeudy. That means 3 receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 running back to go along with Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore. So it's going to be a little different, and I look forward to seeing how they do it. And by the way, Ray Bubba Ventrone is their special teams coach. Where do you go to college? Villanova.
There you go. All right, let's look at week number 7 when a division rival comes into town and not a lot of high expectations for the Giants. The Eagles have kind of had their way with the Giants over the last couple of years here, but this is a team that also will have a little different look because Saquon Barkley is now in Philadelphia.
Yeah, this is obviously, the hype will be ridiculous. This game is at the Giants. Another 1 o'clock game. Daniel Jones is practicing, by the way. Now, I don't know how much they're letting him work. Drew Lock is his backup. He had the Eagles killer. 1 game last year. The Eagles should have won. Somehow they lost that primetime game. The running game is questionable. Devin Singletary is coming off a career year with the Texans, but Texans didn't want him back. Malik Neighbors is their first-round pick at receiver. They're another team that's going to run a lot of 11 personnel. Mike Kafka is their play caller, former Eagles quarterback. And they want more of a spread scheme. Their offensive line, they added John Runyon Jr. as their left guard. Jermaine Illuminor, who was a tackle guard for the Raiders. I met Jermaine at the Super Bowl. He apparently grew up a Giants fan. Well, we'll see how this works out for him. The offense is just not as dynamic. And Darren Waller, everyone I've talked to thinks he's going to retire. Everyone knows him, told me that. But he hasn't retired yet. So we'll see what happens there. Defensively, a complete change on defense. Shane Bowen, who's a Mike Vrabel disciple, he'll run a 34 front like Wink Martindale did, but the philosophy and the scheme is really different, just the way that they implement everything. So it's going to be different, no question about it. And this is a game, obviously, the Eagles will be favored. The game's on the road. Depending on how the Eagles are playing, they could be a touchdown favorite. I can't imagine this team will be any good. Look, they did trade for Brian Burns on defense. I should mention that. They've kind of reshaped their secondary the last couple seasons. You hope that they'll be better. 2 years ago, Daniel Jones was very good. Last season, before he tore his ACL, he was bad. This is, to me, a 6 or 7 win team, and the Eagles clearly are better.
Yeah, you would think that this, as the over-under we went over a couple of weeks ago, 6.5, I think, is the over-under
that makes sense.
for the New York Football Giants. Tough part of the schedule. I think one of the toughest stretches starts in Week 8. You're going to Cincinnati. It's on to Cincinnati, says Bill Belichick, and the Eagles will be out there October 27th. This is a really good team if they're healthy.
Yeah, this game is a 4:25 game. Joe Burrow's doing fine coming off his wrist surgery. He's ready to go. They traded away Joe Mixon. Zach Moss, who led the NFL in rushing, I think, for the first 4 weeks for Jonathan Taylor return for the Colts. He's a grinded-out sustainer. Chase Brown is his brother, obviously sitting place for the Eagles. It's not a great backfield. Like this is I know they're a passing offense. They lost their number 3 receiver in Tyler Boyd to the Titans. Now they didn't really make an effort, as I understand, to bring him back. So it's going to change a little bit. Look for Jermaine Burton to be their 3rd receiver, the 3rd rounder from University of Alabama. When you look at the Bengals, Mike, not a great offensive line. They've upgraded over the years, but it's very average. Amarius Mims will wind up being the right tackle of the future. It's a very beatable offensive line, and with this Eagles defensive front, you would think they would have their way. Defensively, under Lou Anarumo, you know what's funny about him? He was like 4th or 5th on their list. The other guys that Zach Taylor tried to hire, they didn't want the job, and Anarumo kind of came out of nowhere, and it's actually worked out. He's really good. He interviewed for the head coaching job that went to Jonathan Gannon a couple years ago. They're kind of remaking the back end of their defense. It's a pretty good defense, by the way. They get pressure. They've got some young outside corners. Mike Hilton is their nickel slot corner. He's really good. He's a good blitzer. The Geno Stone, the Eagles were not interested in him, as we reported on Inside the Birds, but the Bengals sure were. They got him. Von Bell's back after the Panthers cut him. He used to play for the Bengals. So they're remaking their secondary. This is a good team. This will be a great test, Mike. I would agree with you. That this is when, and we'll talk obviously about we'll do one more game here, but this is not going to be easy.
No, in fact, if they're healthy, this is a team that kind of came out of nowhere that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They probably have those same aspirations, as they head to OTAs and training camp. The Bengals in Week 8. Jacksonville in Week 9. This is a team that went to the AFC Championship game, then did not make the playoff. They had a similar kind of collapse down the stretch that Philadelphia had. Looked like they were flying high at the top of that division, and then didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Mike, Doug Peterson, and obviously they love Doug after his first year, but I mean, let's call it like it is. They choked, losing 5 out of 6. It was one of these things like you could imagine how this possibly happened. Now, what happened was their defense collapsed. Mike Caldwell, another former Eagles assistant coach, pretty much his whole staff got fired. Ryan Nielsen comes in from Atlanta, did a great job with not a lot of talent. They were very stingy on defense. But let's talk about kind of their offense first and their defense. You might remember 2 years ago, the Jaguars came to Philly. They got a big lead. It rained the entire game. The Jaguars got up 14-0 while Trevor Lawrence turned the ball over 5 times, 4 fumbles and a pick. Eagles came back to win. Somehow they won that game. And if you really look at it, they're the team that overachieved 2 seasons ago. They've got a good offense. Trevor Lawrence has got to play better. The Press Taylor, their offense coordinator, Doug Peterson handed the play calling during the season, Mike, to Press Taylor, and it was not good. The fans wanted Press Taylor fired. I mean, if you look at social media, I don't know if you ever noticed this, it was like a movement to get Press Taylor out of there, and Doug wouldn't do it, so he fires the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, with the defensive staff. They're spread West Coast. They're heavy 11 personnel. Their receiver group is different now. It's changed. Gabe Davis gets reunited with Chad Hall. Chad Hall, another former Eagles player. Chad Hall is one of the best receivers coaches in the league. Gabe Davis used to work with him in Buffalo. Brian Thomas, the first-round pick. Christian Kirk's back from his groin injury. Evan Ingram's the tight end. Travis Etienne's really explosive. They're not much of a running team. They're more of a passing offense. And then defensively, Mike, they run a 34 front. They've got I really like their front. Eric Armstead comes in, who's been a former Niner first-round pick who played for Chip Kelly, by the way, at the University of Oregon. Roy Robertson-Harris, Trevon Walker, and Josh Allen are your edge rushers. Walker is a really big-time player. He hasn't quite lived up to being that top pick 2 years ago. He's starting at corner because they're really weak at corners. Ronald Darby. He kind of revived his career. Revived his career with Baltimore last season. He's had a lot of injuries. I mean, 7 years ago, he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. And their other corner, Tyson Campbell, was hurt for most of the season. And Darnell Savage, who we reported this on Inside the Birds, the Eagles pursued Savage. They wanted him, and it was between, I think, the Jaguars and the Eagles for him. But they've got a good, not great defense. They're talented. They just underachieved. Like 2 years ago, they played really well. Lewican, the Yale linebacker, highly paid, really good player. Devin Lloyd has not lived up to being a first-round pick yet at linebacker. But overall, Mike, this will be a challenge. You're right. This is not an easy game, and again, it is a Sunday night game at home against Doug Peterson, the Jaguars.
Yeah, they have that little stretch there where they're out of the 1 o'clock stretch. They go into some primetime games, and I think it's a primetime part of their schedule. It starts with that Cincinnati game, and it rolls on through that. We'll talk about that more next week with Adam Kaplan here on the Sports Bash Live Football at 4. Jacksonville, too, it was another team that you mentioned that kind of like choked their way out of the playoff. They lost 5 of 6. They weren't quite as aesthetically unpleasing, though, as the Eagles were, right? They weren't that bad.
Right, exactly. No, but defensively they gave up a lot of plays. But I think what happened with them was that Christian Kirk suffered a groin injury, had surgery. Zay Jones, their top backup receiver, had a knee problem. He couldn't play, and when he played, he was struggling. And Lawrence started to regress. Lawrence was banged up, shoulder injury, ankle injury, and the scheme. It's not the play calling so much. The schematics of what they were doing just didn't work, and people were pointing it out. It was bad. I mean, they folded. Like they should have won that division.
Absolutely.
But one thing with Texans were incredible. I mean that. But it's just so funny. The year before, the Jaguars came out of nowhere. They were given a 5.5 win total by the odds makers. Last year, the same total, the Texans, and you saw how that worked out.
All right. Well, OTAs continue next week, and of course, we'll have more coverage of that on Football at 4. Adam's back next week. The boys will be back here. You can check out the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms, and their YouTube channel for Football at 4 and all of their great content. Check out the YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. Adam Kaplan, happy Memorial Day weekend, man. We've reached it.
You too. Thank you.
All right. There's Adam Kaplan here for Football at 4 on this Happy Hour Friday on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. So, OTAs this week, just a couple of nuggets from the week that was with Adam and Andrew and Jeff. You know, yesterday with Andrew, he was at the OTAs, so he got a chance to see some guys, some standouts. He and now Adam both mentioning Jacob Harris as a wide receiver to keep an eye on at training camp. Somebody's going to have to make this team and be a backup wide receiver. We know we have two guys in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. After that, I have no idea who would be the third guy. Right now, Paris Campbell would be the guy, I would imagine. Do you feel confident in Paris Campbell being the guy? Probably not. So I definitely think that many people out there are going to be keeping their eyes on who's available, who's out there, who can be that guy to take over the slot from Quez Watkins, by the way. Quez Watkins, who is not here anymore. And I know people aren't like, oh, my God, no more Quez Watkins. Who cares? Well, guess what? They don't have a replacement for Quez Watkins definitively yet, and they got to get that guy. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And don't forget, streaming live video on the X platform at 97.3 ESPN. You can watch the show live on the X platform. Use the hashtag SBLive to find it. Sports Bash Live, SB Live, and you can find the show and watch the show. We've got Knicks Nuggets coming up on the Sports Bash, plus Mike Missinelli tonight in 40 minutes from now. Where's everybody headed this weekend? It's Happy Hour Friday. Let me know what you're having this weekend. I need some suggestions. I need some help. I got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now Monday off. So where's the Happy Hour Friday spot for everybody driving down the shore today? 609-403-0973. Light up that text board. Hit us up. Use the hashtag Happy Hour Friday. Let us know what you're having this weekend. I have some Happy Hour Friday picks for you. And then, holy moly, it's Memorial Day weekend. We're going to be getting out of here soon and getting out to the weekend. Where are you stopping this weekend? I got 5 live bands to check out on our website, 973ESPN.com. If you're looking for some place to go, somewhere to go, a live music to check out, I got 5 bands that I like and 5 venues that I like listed on our website, 973ESPN.com. I'm Mike Gill, and this is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
We have the perfect traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
428 Happy Hour Friday. What's up, everybody? Sports Bash. I can't imagine what the traffic looks like right now. I don't envy anybody sitting in it, but I hope you're enjoying the show. Nick Earnshaw is back for another edition of Nick's Nuggets. Nick Earnshaw is the host of the Shift podcast. He's also the producer of The Locker Room right here on 97.3 ESPN. And he's the host of Nick's Nuggets right now, each and every day at 4:30 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And if you're watching, streaming live video on the X platform at 973 ESPN, use the hashtag SBLive to watch the show. There he is, Nick Earnshaw. What's up, man?
What's going on, Mike? Nice to see you once again. Beautiful Friday afternoon, heading into Memorial Day weekend. So there's a ton of traffic out there. I was out there a little bit earlier, Route 73. It's getting busy out there. I know the expressway is probably crazy as well.
I don't want to sit in it. I can't imagine the people at that exit 2 right now trying to get on their way down to the Parkway. Not fun. Better them than me. But hey, looking forward to the start of the summer, and hopefully it's not too crazy out there. That's all.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not. But we got some nuggets for you if you're sitting in traffic. We'll have some fun here, and it's a Friday afternoon. We're gonna loosen up a little bit, Mike. I want to debate a little bit with you right here. Okay, so. With the Philadelphia Phillies starting rotation, okay, they've been fantastic this year. The 2024 team has been absolutely awesome. On the other hand, they had a great rotation in 2011. So right now, right this second, I know we're only about 50 or so games into the season, Mike. What rotation would you rather have heading into a playoff series? Would you rather have the 2011 rotation or the 2024 Philadelphia Phillies rotation? Either go Halladay, Lee, Oswalt, Hamels, or would you rather have Wheeler, Nola, Ranger, or Sanchez/Walker heading into the playoffs right this second, Mike?
Tough one, man. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I will say this, okay? I will say Halladay threw the no-hitter in the playoffs.
He did.
Would you say, though, that other than that, is there like a big game, memorable playoff game for Roy Halladay?
Just the no-hitter, right? I think that was really the only one. In Toronto, he didn't really have the big moment, right? They weren't very good for a long time. That's why he decided to come over to the Phillies, right? I think the only one was really the no-hitter for me. I mean, that was really it.
Yeah, I mean, he had the no-hitter, and he won that game against Cincinnati. The next year against the Giants, he was just all right. In the series against St. Louis, he was good, very good. Cliff Lee, he'll be most remembered for the game that he blew in the series against the Cardinals. Cole Hamels, now he was the MVP of the World Series and the NLCS. Yeah. So he was a big game pitcher. But Wheeler, Suarez, those two guys, they're making a legacy of being big game pitchers. This is a tough one, man. Cause Roy Oswalt, when he was with the Phillies, he was towards the end of his career. Right. I don't know, man. If you're asking me big game and going Halladay or Wheeler, that's a tough one to ask. Suarez or Lee, that's a tough one to ask. I mean, Lee pitched some big games, in the Yankee series. So I don't know. I think there's probably the depth of this staff might be better because the 2011 version of Hamels was not the same as the one in 08.
No. And my goal today, Mike, was to make you sweat a little bit. That was the goal, to start off the Nuggets, make you sweat a little bit. I think I'd go 24. If I had to choose right now, you're heading into the playoff series, Memorial Day weekend, boom. For some reason, the playoffs are starting today. Boom. I'm going with the 2024 Phillies. Zach Wheeler has been fantastic in the playoffs. He's been unbelievable the past 2 years in the offs. Also, I'd even argue Aaron Nola has really stepped up in the playoffs as well. He's a different pitcher when he gets to the postseason. We saw last year how much he struggled throughout the regular season. He kind of, was giving up a bunch of home runs. He struggled throughout majority of that year. And then when September hit, October, he was pitching really well. That 1-2 punch right there, boom, Nola Wheeler, I'm taking that. But then you have Ranger Suarez as the third guy. Right now, he's right there with the Cy Young with Wheeler. I have to go with the 2024 Phils as of this moment right now. It might be recency bias. That's fine. That's fine. This team has been unbelievable to start the year. You have two guys out of your rotation in the top 3 in the Cy Young Award standings. That's the guys I want on the mound at the moment. If I had to go into a playoff series right now, I got to go 24, even though it's a tough decision. I'm not making light of it. It's a tough decision, but I go slight edge 2014.
Yeah, slight. I go slight edge. I think they've had it's hard to say they're more accomplished because Cole Hamels was the MVP of the World Series. But that was the 08 team, not the 11 team.
Yeah, so I think I'm probably going 2014. I'm curious to see what people say out there because
I'm gonna lean 24 team just because Wheeler and Suarez I think have a little bit better track records than, Halladay, I hate to say, he just wasn't a great playoff pitcher.
It's like the 2011 team and the 2010, right? Like these guys were like the big names. They were huge names. But like Oswalt was towards the end of his career. Halladay as well was heading towards the end of the career, even though he was really good. I just think the 24 team has been dominant, like utterly dominant so far in this season. Those are the guys I would want on the mound. And you also remember, even back then too, it's a little bit different because those guys you could see like a Halladay going 9 innings, 8 or 9, right, all the time. Like that, I feel like it was more prevalent back then to go 8 or 9 innings. You've only had like what? Nola go full game. He's pitched a complete game, shutout. Ranger has pitched a complete game. That's really it. I think it's like 2 complete games between them. And then once Wheeler hits 7 innings, he's usually wrapping up. So that's another factor, I think. If you're making a decision and you lean towards the 2011 team, I think that's something you have to think about as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I don't want to have to be the one that has to make this decision.
I'm making you sweat, and that's what I wanted to do. All right, moving on to nugget number 2. It's a conversation we'll definitely have going forward throughout the rest of the season. I want to just say how thankful we are for John Middleton as the owner of the Philadelphia Phillies. Very lucky because Hal Steinbrenner, the Yankees owner, made some comments the other day about their payroll. And he talked about it not being sustainable. They're right around $300 million. And there's all the talk about them signing Juan Soto. So what do you make of Hal Steinbrenner making those comments from the Yankees? You don't hear that from the Yankees very often. Penny pinching a little bit. I thought that was very interesting to hear that come out of his mouth. And we've heard it over and over again with the Phillies. John Middleton finally going into the luxury tax over the past couple of seasons to get over that hump. What do you make of Hal Steinbrenner now kind of going the other way?
Pretty funny because who came out? I think it was A.J. Przinsky came out and said, he's got to sell the team if you're going to start talking like that. If the Yankees are – listen, I do understand to some extent, like, when's the bubble going to burst on this? Like, how much longer can we continue to just keep raising payrolls and prices? Like, he has to also keep in mind that – he might be able to afford the players and all that stuff, but can he afford to keep raising his prices for the fans? Shouldn't the fans be saying, now listen, the fans could be saying, if you're going to lower your payroll, can you lower your ticket prices? Can you lower your beer prices? All that stuff. When are those prices going to become so ridiculous that it prices everybody out? The common fan out. So at some point, something's got to give here, whether it's them putting a pause on their payrolls. I don't know how they keep going up and up and up.
Yeah, I don't know how they continue to stay at this pace either. So I get where he's coming from. It was just coming from a Yankee, coming from a Steinbrenner. That was, I think, the most shocking thing, because you think of the Yankees, you think of the Bronx, you think of, the lights, the money, all this. They'll get any star they want to get on this roster, right? And for him to come out and say that, I thought was pretty crazy. But yeah, you're right. I mean, at what point does it become way too much? I mean, it's already at an astronomical level, right? At this point, whatever stadium you go to. So when does that kind of stop, and does it level off at some point? They're going to have a couple of guys coming off the books heading into next season, but they have to pay Juan Soto, and they're going to want to bring him back. There's been talk, is he going to come back this year? I don't know. That's going to be very interesting to see. But to have John Middleton go into the luxury tax for the Phillies, I mean, I don't think the Phillies are in this spot if they don't go into the luxury tax, signing guys the way they did, giving out the money. I mean, that's why you have in right field now, you have all the out-of-town scoreboard with all the sponsors now. I mean, that's why that's there. They pay for all these contracts, Mike.
Yeah, the Asplunda out there in left field that's wrapped up everywhere. Yeah, I mean, look, this is something that and a lot of the smaller and middle market teams, they're really going to be struggling with the whole situation of the television contracts. They're not making the same money that they were making off the television contracts. So when does that money dry up and those, teams can't keep paying out to compete?
Yeah, and we just talked about it the other week, right? We now have the Roku games on Sunday. So MLB is already moving towards streaming. We've had the Apple games as well. So everything's kind of moving that way. The TV money isn't going to be the same with everything heading towards streaming too. So that's another factor into this. But yeah, coming from a Yankee, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
That? You don't have enough money up there?
It's definitely a little, jarring to hear it from them. Like, if they can't keep up, if I'm one of the other teams, I'm saying if they can't keep up, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it's like, what if the Yankees can't keep up? That kind of sets the tone for the rest of the league, right? They have one of the highest payrolls usually every single year. So with all the stars and Judge, Stanton, Soto, all these guys, all these names, Eric Cole as well. So they have all these names. What does it mean for the rest of the league? That's something that we have to watch going forward. And with the Phillies as well, I mean, you have guys starting to get towards into their 30s, right? How much longer will they last on these big contracts? Will they go out and pay other players in free agency coming up? And you just paid Trey Turner a couple of years ago, the big contract. Will there be someone else down the line? That's something to watch as well.
No doubt about it. Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier. The fact that you have Trey Turner making $300 million and he's hitting 340 with a 390 on base percentage, and you haven't blinked an eye that he's been out of the lineup.
No, you've literally plugged in Edmundo Sosa, a bunch of other guys with Merrifield as well, and moving Bryson Stott around, and they've been fine. I mean, they've been fine. For the Phillies, it's definitely something like, whoa, I mean, they're missing a big bat, and they're still keeping up this pace and continuing to win ball games at an elite level. That's what's so jarring about this. I don't want to hear about the schedule. We've talked about the schedule ad nauseum, I feel like, at this point, but they don't have Trey Turner either. So they're doing it without one of their best players, which has been pretty impressive.
No doubt. Blake, a lot of fun. Continue the fun. By the way, let me ask you, do you like the Memorial Day weekend West Coast games? You get the little late night West Coast games for Memorial Day weekend. You get a little 8:40 start tonight. You got a 9:10 start tomorrow. Then you get like a 3:10 Sunday game. You got a 5:10 Monday game.
Yeah, I don't mind the late start. I don't mind the late start. It gives you something to do. Go out, you get to enjoy the game while you're out, like maybe partying or, out drinking, having a nice happy hour as well at any time during the weekend. You got the games on the TV. I don't mind that. Or you could just sit and relax on your couch and watch the game at night. I'm cool with it because it's a longer weekend, right? Memorial Day on Monday, which is fantastic. I'm cool with the late start, especially on a long holiday weekend. It keeps it going. Your day just never ends. How about that?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Like, at first I was like, no Phil's at home for Memorial Day weekend, but then everybody from up there is coming down here, and now you get, a little later time to patronage the establishments in the local area down here.
Yeah, and you get to enjoy the entire day if you're with your family, hanging out with friends, etc. You get to enjoy the entire day. Boom, if you had a long day, you enjoyed yourself, you're down at the beach, etc., you're golfing, whatever. you get to go home and boom, you're watching the game at night. That is fantastic. So you get a full day to enjoy yourself. Then boom, at night you get to sit down, relax, watch the Phils, reboot, go and do it again the next day.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. I'm in.
All right. Nugget number 3. I'll move on. I'm going to move to the hardwood. Now, we've talked about the Sixers and names that have come up. And one name that's really kind of intrigued me, and we've heard over the years, is Klay Thompson, Mike. They're plus 1,600, the Sixers. I believe they're like third in the rankings to sign Klay Thompson. So we know they're going to be involved in all of these different names, the big names coming out into free agency. We've heard reports of possibly a 1+1 Bruce Brown type deal with Klay Thompson that could be done. That could be for the Sixers' best interest, maybe. Now, what do you make of Klay Thompson at this point in his career? He's had a bunch of injuries over the past couple of seasons. We know what he did early on in his career with the Splash Brothers and Klay and Steph Curry. But at this point in his career, are you willing to give him a decent chunk of that salary cap? And that money that you have to spend at this point in his career, like, will he make that much of a difference?
Man, it's a tough one. I mean, he's still shot the ball pretty well the last couple of years. I mean, 38% from 3 this year, 41 last year, 38 the year before that. He's a 41% three-point shooter for his career. 20 points 2 years ago, 21 last year, 18 of this year. I mean, he can still put the ball in the basket, but he just doesn't play at the same level. I can't put a lot of money out for him. I can't give him one of those big deals. But what we talked about with Keith Smith, is he one of those guys where you get multiple guys at a lower deal instead of one guy at the big deal? Then maybe that's something I take a little different look at and say, if Klay Thompson, if I go out and get 3 guys and he's the third of those 3, yeah, that probably makes me like that deal a little bit more. But if he's the biggest guy I go out and get, I don't know that I'm kind of out on going out and getting that older guy that is like, hey, we're going to put you together with this group here, and it's going to be you, Maxey, and Embiid.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I mean, a guy like Klay Thompson, he's getting up there in age, right? He's not as good as he once was. And he's somebody like, if you can get him at the right price, but then I'd be okay with it. You fill out the rest of the roster, maybe make a move to fill out the entire roster. Because right now, he's going to be 35 in the middle of next season. So he's going to be right around that Jimmy Butler age. He's going to be right around the Paul George age as well. And he's had a lot of serious injuries too over the past couple of years. So that's someone you got to keep an eye on. I would say if you could get him at a decent price where you could still go out and make other moves, then I'm cool with it. Cause then you fill out a roster. You have a nice shooter in Klay Thompson to pair along guys like Embiid and Maxey. That's fantastic. But I think I can't give him a multi-year deal at this point in his career. The 1+1 wouldn't bother me, but it would be okay, I think, at this point where he's at, if it was at the right price and the right salary heading into next season. But
this is one where I would almost have to know who else they got, who else was a part of this.
Right, exactly. It's like, did they go get a Lauri Markkanen? Did they go get a Mikal Bridges in a trade or something as well? DeMar DeRozan or something along those lines? Did they fill out the roster? That's something I think I would be curious to see. They did go out and get a Klay Thompson. And you also have to remember, we've tried the old guy thing before. You had James Harden paired along Joel Embiid. You've gotten guys like that. Do you want to go down that path again? I don't know if that would be the right move.
Yep. Again, I'd have to know who else they got first. So, if he's my only guy, probably not thrilled. If he's the third guy and I got a couple other nice pieces, I feel better.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. All right, I'm going to round out quickly. It's Memorial Day weekend. Everyone's heading down the shore. Now, Mike, beach pet peeves. I got one gigantic one because, it's going to be crowded Memorial Day, right? My biggest beach pet peeve is the person that sits in the wrong chair. I have had this happen over and over and over again. You go back, you sit in the wrong chair because you're too close in proximity to the other party that's next to you. I can't stand when someone comes up to me and they go and sit in my chair. I come up from the water or I went to the boardwalk, went to the bathroom, I come back, someone's in my chair. I can't. This happened like 3 times in the past couple of years. And that's 3 times too many, Mike. That is the biggest pet peeve I've had.
I don't know that it's ever happened to me ever. Like you came out of the water and a stranger was sitting in your chair.
A stranger is sitting in my chair. I swear, this has happened multiple times to me because they were so close to my party. They had their chair next to mine. They thought the chair was theirs. Boom, they're in my chair. I've had to tell them multiple times.
I mean, I could see, like, if you were saying, like, somebody in your group was like, they sat in your chair because they were talking to the person that was closer to get closer to them, and then you get out of the water, you're like, yo, you're in my chair. But a stranger sat in your chair.
Yes, this has happened multiple times. And, we were there first. We parked our little area there first, and boom, this has happened multiple times.
That's the pet peeve of all pet peeves. You're on the beach, you get a spot, and then the whole beach is available, and people sit as close to you as they possibly can. That's number one. Number two, listen, I don't mind you bring a little music down, but nobody wants to hear your music. Let your music play for your party. You don't need the whole beach to hear your party. That's number two. Number three, you don't feed the seagulls. I mean, come on, this is as old as time here, but some people still come down and think it's fun to feed the seagulls. When you're down at the beach, don't give food to the seagulls. We don't want them coming all around. That's three. Number four, hey, if you're going to play a game, a sport, paddle ball, something like that, play it in an area where people are trying to, where they're not trying to relax and enjoy themselves. You got the little kid running through your party, going through with the, trying to find the ball that got hit over their head. The horseshoe game that's like right up on, hey, the thing's splashing at me, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of others you can go down on this list, by the way, but yours has never happened to me before.
That's crazy. I've had it happen to me a bunch of times where you sit up your party, you have your chairs in a nice like little circle or whatever in a straight line, but there's another party because it's so crowded. Your chair is so close to the one next to you. Boom, they sit in your chair. You come back. Oh, hey, that's my chair. You're sitting in it. And this has happened before. There was one time it happened to me. I believe it was like a year or two ago, I think, something around that. And I came back once, said, oh, okay, you're in my chair. I asked them nicely to move. I go back out in the water again. They did it again. It happened twice in one day. Same person. How do you do that? That takes skill.
Same person in your chair. It's almost like they're messing with you.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, they didn't do it on purpose. It couldn't have been on purpose. There's no way. I think that because it was so crowded, boom, just make sure. I'm just going to put a PSA out there. Just make sure you're in your own chair. That's all. Because I'm going to
now, did the person
this weekend?
Did you verify that the person had the same chair as you?
They did not. It was not the same.
Yeah, then that's horrible.
It's just you're not paying attention. You're in your own world, and then just be courteous. Just be courteous to others, and make sure you're in your own chair. Because I want to come down, I want to sit, I want to dry off, I want to tan. Boom! I can't have that happen.
So where's your beach? Where do you go?
I'm a big Ocean City guy.
Wow, Ocean City Beach.
Yeah,
I don't know that I've ever been on the beach in Ocean City.
Really?
I mean, I've been on the boardwalk many times, but it's like I've never actually gone with the chair, sat on the beach in Ocean City.
Yeah, I've sat on the beach in Ocean City, and I've had this happen multiple times. Maybe I got to change streets up or something, Mike. I think that's what they got to do. Maybe
you got to come to the dark side over here. Margate. I used to go Margate, Ventnor. We used to do a little Brigantine here and there. It's a little buggy over on the Brigantine Beach.
I've done some Cape May. I've done some Brigantine. Those are two other ones that I usually will attend as well. But Ocean City, that's the go-to. That's the main one for me. Straight, easy down the expressway, get on the parkway, boom, you're there.
Yep, I'm usually a Margator. Margate Beach, Ventnor sometimes, every once in a while do the Ventnor Beach, but there you go.
All right, I'm going to join you at Ventnor. I'm going to sit in your chair, all right? And I'm going to show you how it feels when someone sits in your chair when you're not expecting it.
I'm not, funny, I'm not a big sitter.
Oh, okay. What are you're moving around?
You're standing up, you're standing up. I might have a little bit of a cocktail in the hand, you're talking to people you haven't seen in a while. You go to the beach, my cousins are down there, my aunt's down there, my mom's down there, their friends are down there, and they have a big circle. Everybody's talking,
I'm a big guy. I want to tan. I go the headphones in. I'm tanning. I want to get that nice tan, the nice glow for the summer. That's my goal. That's what I just did on vacation. I'm going to do it again this weekend at some point.
You're going to the beach this weekend?
I hope so, yeah, at some point. I'm going to get down there one of these days.
Is the weather calling for beach days this weekend?
I would think so. I would hope so. I know I'm going Sunday, but I'm kind of going later in the day, so I don't know if I'll get enough beach time as well. I'm going to be in the locker room twice this weekend.
That's right.
So
so right after you can pop over. Yeah, Saturday, you got 72, a little cloudy, and that doesn't sound like a beach day. Sunday, a little rain in the possible forecast, 72. Monday, 71 with 57%, 57 area rain. I don't see a beach day for the people this weekend.
Saturday might be the closest day if it's like a little bit cloudy. I don't know if I'll get that extra glow this weekend. We got plenty of time.
All right, that's another edition of Nick's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. All right, Nick, have a good Memorial Day weekend, man.
All right, Mike, I'll talk to you.
All right, Nick's got the locker room tomorrow, the locker room here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN this weekend. Billy will have the locker room on Memorial Day weekend. He's all pumped up. He's got the Beach Patrol report starting up. Nick said, I don't know anything about this Beach Patrol report. What is this thing? Well, it's very specialized to the area. For the people coming down the shore, 10 to 12 tomorrow with the locker room. Nick Earnshaw is the producer of the locker room right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Coming up in 8 minutes from now, Mike Missanelli from the Mike Missanelli Pocket. We'll talk about this Philly start, how he compares it to 93. He was, doing radio in Philly in the 93 Phils, how this team kind of feels next to that team. We'll also get his thoughts on summer at the shore. No Phillies lineup. They're out west. But the Phils tonight against Colorado, and the Phillies lineup each day is brought to you by Clark's Moving and Storage in Rio Grande. Moving's a breeze with Clark's Moving and Storage. All right, final hour of the show coming up. Mike Missanelli from the Mike Missanelli Podcast joins me next here on the Sports Bash.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Five o'clock, driving you home, and of course it's Memorial Day weekend. You hear this song, you think of Chase Utley. Has Bryson Stott's walk-up music surpassed Chase Utley in Philadelphia? It's a great time to be a Phillies fan. There's nothing to complain about. It's the basis of our jobs. That's what we do. We complain. Nobody complains more than Mike Missanelli over his time on the radio airwaves. And now you can check out the Mike Missanelli Podcast and hear what he's complaining about. There's nothing to complain about, Mike. It's the summertime at the shore, and I said, who better to talk to on a great summer Memorial Day Friday at 5 o'clock when we had the largest audience probably of all Friday at 5 on the drive home with Mikey Miss right here on the Sports Bash. What's up, man? How'd you hit him today?
I hit him okay today. I'm still kind of in golf mode here, but I'll tell you who's complaining. Probably people trying to get to the shore right now. It's Friday night at this time. It's kind of a deathly situation for people. So chill out. You'll get there and just enjoy some sports talk here.
Yeah, right. It's so it's like it's what I have coffee, 5 o'clock. I got nothing to complain about. Like, is there something I'm missing? Is there just like, hey, enjoy it, man? You were obviously at the height of that 93 team. That was so much fun. It was similar where that team was so far out, but that team was a little different. You couldn't believe that they were doing that. Like, it was like you were waiting for it to kind of the shoe to drop. This team, like, you kind of had the notion that they're a good team, but this is something different, man. How as a Philadelphia sports fan, are we supposed to react to the team being the best?
Here's how you react now. This is going to be a disappointment if they don't win the whole thing after a start like this. So people will find a way to go down that avenue. But the thing to me that was connective of 93 and this team is the starting pitching. In 93, we remember some of the sluggers in that lineup, but their pitching really is what carried them through that from 1 to 5. They got contributions from everybody, including Danny Jackson and Ben Rivera. And this team's doing the same thing. Now, Christopher Sanchez, I don't know. He seems to be able to get through it. If you look at a weak link, maybe he's the weak link, but he hasn't been very weak. And the thing, Mike, about this year, the National League, this is in no way trying to disparage what the Phillies are doing, but there are 3 championship contenders. That's it. I mean, you get the Phillies, you get the Braves, you get the Dodgers. The rest of the National League is very, very iffy. And they're going into a couple more series that they should dominate here with the Rockies and the San Francisco Giants. So as long as that keeps rolling along and they beat these teams they're supposed to beat, could they win 100 games? I guess they could.
Yeah, no, it's funny because the Philly, this is the best start they've ever had. It's starting to get to, the talk to the Mariners the other night. I love Rob Thompson. He said, well, they didn't win anything. But do the Philadelphia fans appreciate the 93 team, the 0-1 Sixers, these great teams that didn't win? You know, it's part of the fabric of the sports in this area, these great teams that came out of nowhere but didn't win anything. Is this team going to follow suit, or do you feel that this is a different fabric than the 93 Phillies, the 0-1 Sixers?
Yeah, this is a pedigree team. I mean, you look at their lineup, it's got a better pedigree than the 93 team did. Now, maybe not 2008. That was obviously had a pretty good pedigree as well. But this pedigree of this team, I mean, look at it. Just look at the lineup. And, they've got 2 weak spots right now. And one is the right fielder. And I don't know what to feel about him. I think that they need to probably get a right-handed bat that they can kind of spell him a little bit. He plays all the time. And, I'm worried about Castellanos. I don't think he's going to have a significant elevation, to be a real contributor like the other people. But, they've got kind of a left field, right field quandary, and they probably could use another right-handed bullpen guy. And I'm sure Dabrowski knows that. Now, maybe you go out and you get Michael Conforto, but that gives you another left-handed batter. He can play right field. You got to get somebody who can play right field. The Phillies right now don't have a right fielder they can spell Castellanos with.
Yeah, the Castellanos thing is one, right? He's hitting 200, 202, somewhere in that range. How much leash does he get? It's almost like, hey, everybody else is hitting. We'll let you try to hit your way out of this. How long do they do that? The Marsh thing's an interesting one, too, I think, Mike, because he got off to a great start. He's such a popular guy. He's not hitting lefties at all. And now he's coming back to earth. But you can't bench that guy. You can't trade that guy. He's got to be a part of this team. But does Merrifield Pache as the right-handed other side of that, is that enough? Is that your Pete Incaviglia to your Milt Thompson? Maybe not.
I know there are people out there thinking they should bring up Cody Clemens and replace Merrifield, but you commit to a guy like Merrifield, you're not going to give him every chance possible. So he's probably going to be here for the long haul. But you're right. They need Pache. I don't know what to feel about him. I mean, sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't. I don't think he's enough to platoon with Marsh, and he certainly can't play right field. So I think if they can get somebody on the market who's a solid right-handed hitter, that would help them. A guy who can play both right field and left.
Asked me earlier from text board was asking questions. We're just like random stuff. One question: feel better about this team or the 0-1 Phillies at this time? Because that 0-1 team, you had the Halladay, you had the Lee, you had the Hamels, you had the Oswald, and you felt like they just kept winning and winning and winning. And that series, they just did. The offense let them down. The Lee game, do you feel similar where this team is like, hey, and then boom?
Forgot Joe Blanton in that, right?
I was at that press conference in Clearwater, by the way, where they demanded that he was there. It was an awkward situation.
Put him on the cover. Yeah. I don't know. I like this lineup. I mean, this lineup is kind of relentless. And, so when I look at what separates them, they've got 93 starting pitching and a better lineup. I think a more consistent lineup that will hit, except for just maybe one or two spots. And Rojas is another thing. I mean, he's probably going to slump somewhere along the line again. And we're going to probably get to the playoffs and they're going to question whether he can hit in the playoffs again. But other than that, they got so many guys that can carry the lineup that it probably doesn't even matter if all 9 guys hit.
Do you, are you a fan of the manager? I hear so many people. I feel like he gets ripped a lot for some of the things. I don't know
why. I like him. I think he's, a lot of people question some of the moves that he makes, but I think he's a guy who manages for the long haul. I think he's smart enough to figure it out when he gives guys days off, when to pull pitcher. I think he's really smart that way. He made a couple bad moves in the playoffs last year. But I think overall, he's a very highly competent manager who stays out of the way. I kind of look at him like he's kind of Charlie Manuel. He wants to line up to feel as good as they can. That's the thing about baseball. That's the thing that Charlie did. He kind of left them alone, and he believed in them. And so when people ask him to demote some guys down in the order, he says, no, here's the thing about baseball players, and I've been around them for like 40 years. They sulk when that happens. When you move them down, that chisels away more of their confidence. So I like that he feels that way, because I kind of feel the same way. You don't have to drop guys in the lineup, because you're telling them, you know what, you're not good enough to be in that spot in your lineup. And they go, yeah, I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not good enough for this whole thing. So I liked what he does there.
Yeah, it's like the temperament. He has the right temperament for this group, and to me, for baseball manager, that probably trumps, like, does he have, because quite frankly, how much of this is analytic? How much is told to him before, the pitcher at 85 pitches, you're going to get him no matter what, Like, a lot of that, I think, is probably conversated on before, but his temperament around these guys, I love the answer he gave about the Mariners thing the other night. Oh, they didn't win anything. Who cares about that? Like, it's just the perfect thing with this group, which is funny because, all right, Bryce Harper is the obvious star of this team. But who's the other guy? Like the group before had the Howard, Utley, Rollins. They had these three guys. This is just a weird makeup. The pitchers, they don't say anything. They have no Wheeler has no personality. Nola hasn't said a word in 10 years, right? I mean, it's just a weird makeup for such a likable team.
That's okay by me. I really don't care about that. I think this lineup passes the baton very well. Like, they go, if you need to take a walk, they take a walk. The next guy, they trust the next guy, which is really interesting. And I think Thompson doesn't get too close to him, but doesn't get too far away from him. And I think that's the perfect thing to manage, especially this team, a veteran team. You stay out of their way. I'm going to make some moves because I believe in the way I can manage, and I like the statistical matchups and all that kind of thing. And he's just kind of there, and I think it's the perfect mix, really.
All right, Mike Missinelli from the Mike Missinelli podcast. Well, baseball in this town is weird. It's an Eagles town always. It's always Eagles, right? But what is it about Philly and baseball that the stadium is filled in May, and there's 40,000 people there on an afternoon game in May. So what is it about when the baseball team's good? You've dealt with a lot of these people over the years when the team's bad, but when they come out of nowhere and have these good teams, because everybody says it's Eagles, 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 and it is. But when the baseball's team good, I am amazed at that building being packed in May.
Yeah, when the baseball team isn't good, they can still draw too. I think this is like a double-sided coin for fans. It's a great thing to do. I mean, let's face it, going out to the ballpark, a ballpark that looks like that, a ballpark that has really good concessions and seating lines and all that kind of thing. It's a nice evening or afternoon out. Like, the other day at that day game, it's the perfect day to be outside. You can get off work. Why wouldn't you go? And the double bonus is they're really good. So you're going there to this really nice ambiance. You love the game. They're really good. And you're a satisfied customer. I really think that's it. And somebody asked me the other day, what's the best home field advantage in the city? It's definitely a Phillies game. I mean, really, that's been proven out. The Eagles games.
They lost 2 games in Game 6 and 7 at home.
Yeah, I know. Eagles game. This is an Eagles town, so you go, well, how can the Phillies atmosphere? The atmosphere is just so more electric at that baseball park than it is at Lincoln Financial Field, even though it's still a really good crowd. And there's something about baseball and the summertime or the springtime that draws people out. You're outdoors. It's a nice experience, and you get a really good team to follow. So that's the perfect entertainment value, I think.
So are we going to get bored with this team at some point? Is it going to be a party all summer?
They're not going to get bored. I think they're going to be, they're going to win in the 90s and maybe 100 with this team, judged on how much better they are than most of the teams in the National League. But again, this sets everybody up, because when you accomplish that during the regular season, they go, okay, well then you got to kick the door in. It's like the Boston Celtics. Okay, there's no more room for you losing and not getting the NBA Finals. And once you get there, you got to win. It's kind of the same thing when you set up your fans to have this kind of season, and look what happened last year. They weren't as good as this team, And it was devastating when they lost to Arizona. So the pressure is really going to be on them once they get in the postseason.
Yep, it'll be fun. It should be a good summer. You mentioned it, about 100. They could approach 100. They could be in that one of those teams. The 1 year they won 100.
I think they're going to be better than the Braves, but I think they are.
Well, the Braves losing Strider.
They're going to go into a slump where they lose some games. I don't know who against, really, unless it's the Braves or the Dodgers, but they're good enough to get by all these teams that aren't that good in the National League.
They got that pocket of games. They go to London, and when they come back, they got a pocket of games with like Baltimore, Boston's all right. Like right after that London trip.
Okay, I mean that could be a problem spot, but still, I think the pitching is just carrying them. They're going to play better teams, but those better teams going to overmatch the staff they throw out right now.
That's the difference. That's really, Mike, that's the difference is their fourth and fifth guy. I mean, even Walker, he gets you to the sixth inning, which means he's saving your bullpen a lot. So even he helps you out just by, it's like they don't care about, hey, go out there and just throw 110 pitch. Who cares? And he gets you 6 innings. So their bullpen's always like ready to go. That's a huge key for them.
You got 3 really good lefties coming out of the pen too. Soto at times can be rocky, but and that's why I think you need another righty, because Dominguez sometimes will deliver, sometimes he won't. Dominguez and Hoffman, you're relying on those 2 guys. I think you need one more guy. You need like a Chad Durbin type.
A good name there. Good pull there.
Yeah.
You pulled out a good name on the Mike Missinelli podcast. Chuckster Charles Barkley was the guest. Had some interesting things to say about this Sixers offseason, which, hey, quite frankly, Mike, this Sixers offseason is going to be something. I mean, the rumors are just going to be out of control. They're attached to every single guy because they have the money. They got, all these draft picks. You got Daryl Morey. So it's going to, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be pretty interesting to see what he decides to finally do. We've heard Paul George's name, I think, since 2 years ago, it feels like. But are you kind of intrigued by how they're going to play this whole thing?
I tell you that right now, Mike, I am not a fan of the way Daryl Morey is building the team, because his obsession with the 3-star thing, and the 3rd star is going to be an older player. I look around the league now and I go, what wins? Young, energy, great role players. Like Denver proved that last year. You look at the teams that are now involved, like Indiana. They're young and energetic. They're not going to win against Boston, but the Knicks played the same kind of way. You look at the other; it's all defense with the Minnesota Timberwolves right now, and at that team, the Dallas Mavericks. Even though they have 2 stars, they defend because they've got role players that really contribute, like the Gaffords of the world, and even the kid from Archbishop Carroll Jones. I mean, they're Daryl Morey is in a tough spot because he knows he's got Embiid on a shorter shelf life. So he can't afford to maybe go the way these other teams are going with young energy. He's got to produce on that. He doesn't have 3 years to develop that kind of a team, which puts them in a quandary, because I don't think a guy like Paul George does anything for him either. He'll be exciting. People will come to the part, but he's going to miss a lot of games during the regular season, which puts them in a lower pecking order once they get into the playoffs. And then in the playoffs, he hasn't been that great. I don't know. I don't know what if I know he's hamstrung now because he's got to get the stars together around Embiid, and he can't afford to go, okay, let's do it the way the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing it. So I don't know. Chuck called it the most important offseason in Sixer history. It might be that just because of Embiid and the shelf life here.
Well, it feels like we're up against the most important one every offseason because it's such a disappointing way that they ended the previous season before. But the fact that the bugaboo here, Mike, is they got the money and there's nobody exciting to use the money on. And then how do you get creative? Do you make one of these trades and go get like a Jimmy Butler? Now you're going back down the road of bringing the old guy in. I think you're right. But what are you supposed to do if the young guy's not available? Do you just bag it and say, hey, it's like, how do I take my best swing with the assets and the money I have? There's no attractive piece I don't envy the guy.
I think he's hamstrung, if that's an appropriate word, because Embiid's an MVP level player, but he's hamstrung with Embiid at his age right now because he's got to deliver in this small window. So probably he's got to go the way of the 3 stars. But I just don't think that wins anymore. The NBA has turned into this, the young dudes take over and they can play a lot of minutes and they're not exhausted in the end. And you got to defend in this league. People that say there's no defense in the NBA, you know how hard it is to play defense against this level of athleticism. It's amazing. And I watch these teams night in and night out played that kind of defense. It's fabulous. I love it.
Yeah, and it's funny because you're right. We're watching the league. We had the Kobe to LeBron and this Durant and this little Steph Curry, and we're starting to get that next phase, it feels like, right here. And the Sixers are kind of stuck in no man's land. It's like, you got Maxey on the young end, you got Embiid in the middle. Who's the guy to bridge the gap? I don't know how they get. I think
a guy like OG Anunoby would be a perfect acquisition for the Sixers because he's a guy who is a premier role player who wouldn't have to be at the level of a Maxey and Embiid. That's the kind of guy that I would go after rather than a guy like Paul George. I just don't. It doesn't really do anything for me, except it's going to be exciting to watch the Sixers because every time you put three stars together, like the Phoenix Suns, they're like, it was must-see TV. But what did they do?
Nothing.
That wasn't the right way to build it, was it? And I think Morey's going down the same path, and I just don't know that it works.
Check out the conversation with Charles Barkley, the Mike Missinelli podcast on all podcasting platforms. Memorial Day weekend, summer at the Shore. You ready for it?
Yeah, I might get down there tomorrow.
Going to be crazy.
But I'm definitely going down next week. Memorial Day weekend's a little too hectic for me. So I try to go after.
Yeah, that's a smart move there. Smart. Is the Vineyard open down there?
I'm sorry?
The Vineyard open?
Yeah, the Vineyard's open. Yes, Tally Vineyards. Check it out. We're expecting a pretty busy weekend this weekend. So if you're down there, and it's not going to be, the weather's not going to be this great, right? It's going to be iffy. 70, cloudy.
Yeah, iffy.
So it's a great day. Spend a Saturday at the winery. Get over into Tally and sip some wines.
Absolutely. Check it out. The Memorial Day weekend's here. Mike Missinelli is here on the Sports Bash. And all right, man, it's good to see you. Enjoy the summer, I guess. I don't know, man. This baseball team has got us all fat and happy.
Yes, it's exciting, man. I love a good ball season that could result in a World Series. Because think about all the seasons that didn't result in that.
A lot.
Now you got a team that checks a lot of boxes, spends a lot of money, gives you bang for your buck. It's a good summer, man.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Missinelli, everybody. Check out the Mike Missinelli podcast. And, of course, he was a part of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Yeah, look, have fun with it this summer. That's the messaging, of course, with this Phillies team. Hey, Phillies tonight, it's an 8:40 start out in Colorado for the weekend series against the Rockies. 9:40 tomorrow, 3:10 on Sunday. So it's a good Memorial Day mix of game times. You can go out and have dinner, still catch the Phils game later on. I like that setup there. I still have my drive around the island for you, my Happy Hour Friday picks. What's your Happy Hour Friday pick for the weekend? What are you having this weekend? 609-403-0973. Where are you going this weekend? Let me know. 609-403-0973. A lot of people texting in throughout the day with the different beers that they're having this weekend. Where you're going? What are you recommending this weekend? I always have my Happy Hour Friday drinks of choice for you guys out there. I'm going to kind of give you my favorites from the last, from 2024 that I've thrown out there for you guys to get the summer kicked off the right way here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, a Happy Hour Friday to everybody out there. What's going on, everybody? Mike Gill with you. We've got, we actually just grabbed a couple extra pair of tickets to the Dillon comedy show, Tim Dillon, tomorrow night at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. So those of you who we've already contacted, you guys are winners. But right now we're going to open up the phones. Chance to go see Tim Dillon, stand-up comedian, writer, actor at Ocean Casino Resort at Ovation Hall tomorrow night in Atlantic City, 7 o'clock show. Give me the next two callers right now at 609-573-3776. We got two more pairs of tickets that just came in. So we gave away our three. We got two more tickets for tomorrow night's show, 609-573-3776. 3776. Give me the first 2 callers in. We're going to hook you up with a pair of tickets to go see comedian Tim Dillon tomorrow night at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Great show, by the way. I was at Ocean last week. Place was awesome. So hang out, see the show, and then obviously you can hang out at Ocean Casino Resort afterwards. Tim Dillon tomorrow night at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Congratulations to our first group of winners, and we did got a couple pair of tickets here that we're going to wrap up today's show on a happy hour Friday. You ever listen to the Tim Dillon podcast? It's a lot of comparisons to like Farley stuff. He's very funny. So make sure you get, if you get on the phone right now, I think people calling in right now, 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. He's at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City tomorrow night. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. All right, so happy hour Friday. It's Memorial Day Friday, and one of the things we love to do as we get ready for the summer season is give you our happy hour Friday picks. You know, so many people listen for Happy Hour Friday. You know, it's a fun segment that we kind of started a while back and just said, hey, listen, you know, there's a lot of great places in the area, and let's share some of these places. Share some of the great breweries, local places, where you can get these beers and stuff like that. So people just started texting in, hey, I get this here, I get this there. And it just kind of took off a little bit to the point where there's a lot of people who just kind of come up and say, hey, I listen, you know, for Happy Hour Friday, or I listen to Happy Hour Friday. So those of you who are driving down, you're new to the show, welcome aboard. It's just the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. You can download the free mobile app, 97.3 ESPN's free mobile app, and you can watch the show live video on our Twitter X platform at 973 ESPN. You can hit us up there. Use the hashtag SB Live. So one of the things on Memorial Day weekend Friday that we've been doing over the years is kind of giving you all our Happy Hour Friday spots and places that we go to get these things. So we'll go through a bunch of the different beers that we've kind of encountered since the start of 2024 and kind of the different places. So last week on Happy Hour Friday, we gave you the Vaga Haze from Brick City Brewing, which you get over at Vagabond, Atlantic City. I don't know if they have it at the EHT version, by the way, but I thought it was excellent. I thought it was a really good one. So we'll start off with that. Alien Church is from Tired Hands Brewing Company. I don't know if you can get that down here in the area, but I have heard that they had it at Tennessee Avenue Beer Hall. So I have heard that. I can't verify that, but if anybody knows where you can get Alien Church from Tired Hands Brewing, I have heard Tennessee Avenue, so let me know on that. Daybreak from Wissahickon Brewing Company. I don't know that they have that anywhere in the area down here, but Wissahickon Brewing Company is in Philly, right outside the city. That's easy to kind of go up there and kind of get there. Even the Trees. I had this over at the Seed in Atlantic City. It's worth the drive. All right. You got to get to the Seed this summer. It's something you have to do. And Even the Trees is the beer. It was fabulous. The guys at the Seed, awesome. The beer was outstanding. I can't recommend that beer enough. It was probably right now my favorite of 2024, honestly. We talk about the different spots we want to hit and do. Heady Topper was another fantastic beer. I think they had it actually another at Tennessee Beer Hall. I think had the Heady Topper as well. And guy, you guys can play along. Give me some recommendations where you can get them. If you've heard of some of the stuff I'm throwing out there and know where I can get it. Some of these you guys gave me, by the way. These are some of your recommendations. This one, this is, let's see. This is another beer from the Seed, by the way. Communication of Subjects. I got this at the Seed in Atlantic City. It was outstanding. It was really good. I don't know that they have it all the time, though. That's the only thing on that. So you got to check that out. This one here All right, let's go. I'm going through because some of these that I gave you were from when I was out of the area. So I want to make sure. Oh, all right. The Tonewood is what really started the things off. Somebody gave us the Fuego, but then we upgraded to the Mas Fuego, which I think Josh actually gave me for New Year's, right? Or is it my birthday?
I thought it was New Year's I brought you some.
Yeah, but I drank it on my birthday.
Gotcha.
Because it says I drank on January 24th.
That would definitely not be New Year's.
Yeah, so, which is my birthday, which is good. So you gave it to me on New Year's. Well, I didn't want to go with an 8.2 on New Year's.
You're trying to pace yourself.
Trying to pace myself.
Understandable.
Yeah. Mas Fuego, you can get at Tonewood. You could probably get it at different liquor stores in the area, right? Where'd you get it?
I got it at a local liquor store down the street here.
Okay. This one is another seed beer. It's called Earnest Intent. This one I'm not sure that they have either. I could be wrong, but check out the seed. That's 3 beers I gave you from the seed because they're all really good. Over at Hidden Sands in Egg Harbor Township, which is not too far from him, the 608 DIPA is a double IPA. If you're going to Hidden Sands, it's a really cool spot. I really like the spot upstairs. They have a really cool bar up there. The downstairs has a cool little area. The beer's pretty solid over there. That 608 is probably the beer that's my favorite. My buddy, there's a mango beer over there that he really likes, but the 608 I had recently was over there about 2 weeks ago, and I like that beer. Main Event is from Magnified Brewing Company. I would say I think they have it at Chickies and Pete's. You know where I actually bought the beer is at Sam's in Pleasantville, Sam's Club. Not Sam's, the bar that used to be in Pleasantville. Sam's, the club that is where you go to buy groceries. There used to be a bar called Sam's. I'm pretty sure it was called Sam's on Main Street over there. But Main Event is the beer. Check that out. XRP is from Neck of the Woods Brewing Company, and that is up in Pittman, New Jersey. That is Neck of the Woods. That's at the Total Turf Place. You ever been there?
I have not been there.
Good little spot. They have a beer called XRP. Good. I wouldn't say like you have to drive crazy to go get it. They have another beer called Stay in the Car, Frank. I like the beer. It was solid beer. There's another one called Splatterbrain and Funk Face. They are from Axe and Arrow in Glassboro.
I do like some Axe and Arrow. I've had some of their stuff before.
Yes. Funk Face was my favorite of the Axe and Arrow beers. I had Funk Face, Splatterbrain, and House of Aliens. So check out the Funk Face if you're a New England hazy guy. What else do I got for you here? The Jersey Riptide is from Farmers and Bankers, which is out in Woodstown, I want to say.
Yeah, I have not been out there yet, but it's on my my bucket list of places I want to go at some point.
Yeah, they have another beer called Little Dougie and the other one called Duva Where's My Car?
I've had the Duva Where's My Car because they had it at Witchcraft last year.
Yeah, the people from Farmers and Bankers were at one of my remotes one day and had a little 4-pack of that.
Nice.
And I went out and bought some more of it, so thanks to those guys out there. All right, Hop Hands from Tired Hands Brewing Company. I like the Alien Church better, but somebody brought me the Hop Hands, a listener brought this for me, and I appreciate it, which got me turned on to the Tired Hands Brewery, but Hop Hand's pretty solid. I think you can get that down here in the area. I don't know that you can get this beer. I think you said you're going this weekend. Gusto has a beer called Tardy to the Party. I think that was made for their 5-year anniversary party.
That's correct, yeah.
So you can't get that beer?
It's probably still on tap down there.
All right, so. Tardy to the Party. Interactive Fiction from Gusto is another beer. That's from Gusto in, what's that, North Cape May? I get so confused with the damn Cape May town.
It's on the way to the ferry. Just say that.
Mudhen has a beer called Gander. If you haven't been to Mudhen in Wildwood, check them out. Great dudes. Gander is the beer. I will say I'm not 100% that they have it all the time. I think they kind of make it every so often, and it just happens to be that when they made it, they brought it to me, and I enjoyed it. So I don't know if they have it, but that's Colin down there.
That's called a win.
I enjoy the Gander. They have another beer called Rambler to Miami, which I do enjoy as well.
I've had the Rambler to Miami. That is very crisp.
They have another one called Wildwood Haze. It is a New England Hazy, which is kind of my style of beer. It's good. I like the Gander better. By full disclosure, I'll give you the most honest opinion that I can give you with some of the stuff here. Swoosh is Bonesaw's Hazy. Now, for those of you who don't listen all the time or are new maybe to the show, I'm generally a hazy New England style IPA kind of drinker, so a lot of mine are going to lean that way. But I'm very open to hearing your picks. So if you have some that you want to recommend, please let me know. 609-403-0973. Bonesaw has Swoosh, and you can get that a couple places. They have it at, the name of the place is, Queen Jane in Summers Point, which is a really cool spot, by the way.
Okay.
You ever been there?
I have not.
Really cool spot. It's in like, where Target is.
Oh, okay.
Next to Passion Vines.
I'm seeing it now. Yeah.
It is a pretty cool spot. They don't have a lot of beers on tap. It's more of like a cocktail. You know, the guy who's the bartender is pretty good at mixing drinks and stuff.
Sure.
There's no food. Like there's a appetizer menu, like little finger foods, but
Gotcha.
They do have Swoosh on tap. So that's what brings me in.
There you go.
That's what I like. So check that out over there. Gusto has a beer called The Machines Are Learning.
That's one of their classics. Yep.
Yes. I'm a big fan of Gusto.
That's one of my favorites down there.
Chimney in Hamilton. You know, I was in Hamilton last week and we went to Bruni's Pizza. And I tried to get my girlfriend to walk across the street to Vinyl, but she wasn't having it.
Jeez.
Not because she doesn't like Vinyl, but we had to move on. We had some plans. We were like running late. I was like, let's just get a beer at Vinyl real fast.
You could have picked up maybe something to go or something.
No, we actually were running late. She was right.
Darn it.
Ironworks is their hazy New England over at Chimney. They do have a lot of darker beers. I think Chimney is really good at the darker beers. My buddy really likes the beers over there.
Okay.
Ironworks is good. I mean, I don't not like it. It's just, I think that they have a bigger selection of darker beers. I think the New England Hazy they don't have as much of a selection of.
Gotcha.
But Ironworks is their beer there. Vinyl in Hamilton, the beer is My Brain Hurts.
Nice.
Yes, after I have 3 of those, my brain hurts.
I thought you were going to say after you're dealing with me all week, your brain hurts.
That's true, too. Vinyl is on the main strip there in Hamilton across from Bruni's Pizza. 3 Threes is Back to Reality, which will be Tuesday when we're back on the show here.
There goes Gravity.
Yep, that's a good one out there. Oh, boy. I feel like, by the way, I did drink another Seed beer this weekend, and it's the Seed made the beer for Ocean's 5th year anniversary party. It's called
that's cool.
Seeds of the Ocean. It's more of a pale ale, so it's not my style of beer.
I would like it.
Probably. I had it at dinner the other night because I was at the Noodle Bar over there.
Okay.
So it was like they had a lot of different like Japanese beers, Sapporo. So I went with the Seed. It's not my style. I didn't hate it, but it's, if you're like a pale ale, Seeds, I told you, look, there's 3 Seeds beer as I gave you that I really like a lot. Let's see. What else can I give you? If you're over in Delaware listening, I told you guys this before on Happy Hour Friday. Dewey Beer's Swishy Pants is the beer over there at Dewey Beer Company. So where are my Delaware people at? Give me a good Delaware beer. Swishy Pants. Thompson Island's IPA was all right. I liked the Swishy Pants a little better. Crooked Hammock over there is the beer is called Beach Escape. Pretty cool. Ever been to Crooked Hammock over there? It's a pretty cool setup. It's, they got games and all sorts of stuff going on in the background over there. What else we got here? All right. Let's go down to Cape May County a little bit. Side Pocket at Bear Brewing. I like Bear Brewing.
Bear Brewing's great.
Yeah. The place is pretty cool. They have good beers there. People are very nice. Full Throttle is the beer over at Bucket Brigade. That's their New England Hazy IPA. Counter Current, if you're going to Slack Tide, check that out.
That's one of my top 5 at Slack Tide.
Yeah? You like the Ridge?
Love the Ridge.
How about the Sand Spike?
Sand Spike's good.
Okay.
I also like Angry Osprey over there.
Yes.
Also, they just came back out with their 7 C's.
And they just opened back up, right? Not Slack Tide. Ludlam, sorry.
Oh, Ludlam just opened back up,
yes.
yeah.
Ludlam is Water Guns and Rainbows. That's one of my favorite beers out there.
Yep, they open back up over on in Woodbine now.
Must Be 7 from Tonewood. Check that out. Pretty good beer there. I don't know if you can get it down in this area. If you can, go find it. It's very good. There's the Duva Where's My Car. That one just came to my mind, but it's just showing up on my happy hour. These are my happy hour Friday picks from over the Fridays that we've done the show.
Gotcha.
So I'm just going back through my happy hour
We're
Fridays.
reviewing the list.
Yes, indeed. What else do I got for you guys out there? So I'll give you a couple more. That beer was really good, but I got it in Tennessee. Oh, okay. The Flake News over at Sopo in Summers Point. If you like a nice, easy New England style there, Sopo's a great little spot. Check that place out. This summer, there's the Rambler to Miami. What else we got here? The 1883 down there at Mudhen, the Snag and Drop over at Cape May Brewing Company. That one's a little strong. That's a 10%er.
Still good.
Yeah. Oh, listen, have a blast. Do what you got to do, right?
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah. So there's just a couple of my happy hour Friday picks for this Memorial Day weekend. Real quick, we always try to give you a couple spots. So we go down to Brigantine. So I was in Brigantine 3 times in the last 2 weeks, which, you get down to Brigantine. I have not been to the new La Scala Beach House, though, but I have been to the 2 other La Scalas. How about that? I was at the one on Cooper River, and I was at the one at Glassboro. So I got to check out this one here, because what I will say for the other 2 places, they do have a good beer selection.
They have a good beer selection at the Beach House, and the food is excellent. I can tell you that much.
I have eaten at both of the other 2 locations, so I'm looking forward to getting to the Brigantine La Scalas. I've heard really good things about it, so I look forward to getting over there this summer. All the people in Atlantic City, there's so many great local spots in Atlantic City. I love getting out to the Wonder Bar when they open up. I think they just opened up the back deck to kick off the summer, so we're looking forward to that.
That's exciting.
This year I was just over at Vagabond where I had the Vaga Haze. That was really, really, really good. Driving over, Ventnor's got a lot of new things happening now. The restaurant scene in Ventnor is awesome. A lot of BYOBs over there. Margate, as you guys know, it's got the old Venerable Roberts place. Maynard's back on the bay, so check out those places. Hit up the brewery, by the way, in Atlantic City, The Seed. Go offshore. Check out Garden State in Absecon on the White Horse Pike. Go over to Hidden Sands in EHT. Cruise down Route 9. Hit up Sopo in Summers Point. Cruise over the bridge, and you will check out just a plethora of more of breweries. You got the new Ludlam, right? That kicks it all off. Then the Slack Tide. You go down to the new Whale Tail is where Coho used to be.
Yeah, that's off of Exit 6 on the Parkway.
There's another new place opening, Myers. I don't know if that's open yet, but it's at the old
mini
golf course down there in Ocean View. That's going to be a brewery and mini golf course. You got Bucket Brigade in Cape May Courthouse. You've got, what's the other? I'm doing this off. The Bear is on the way down there.
Yep.
The
Bear's basically on your way to Cape May, basically.
Yep. You've got, what's the other one that's the old place? It's like from the 1800s.
Oh, Cold Spring
Brewery. Spring Village. Yeah, it's a cool place. Like, if you're like some hardcore beer guy, but it's more for the atmosphere. Like you're in this old historic place. It's pretty cool. Beer's okay. It's not like terrible or anything. It's just, it's like more for I loved being in like the old, building there.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the building is in an old barn from like the 1876, something like that.
And then you're going down to Cape May. You'll get Cape May, the original Cape May Brewing Company, which kind of kicked everything off. Gusto is down there in North Cape May. And then go over to Wildwood. You've got Mudhen and Anglesey, which I have not been to, but I promise I will get to it this summer.
Anglesey Ale Works is really good.
Yeah. Cape May, as we had Colin on the other day. So many awesome places to check out. Wildwood is just booming right now. There's so many new cool things happening in Wildwood. All the Wildwoods, North Wildwood, all the way down to the Crest. Of course, everything's always jumping this time of year in Stone Harbor, Avalon, Sea Isle. So there you go. There's our Memorial Day look at everything. It's our today's Big Three. We gave you 333. We'll close out the show with everything you need to know. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, get ready to get out of here on this happy hour Friday, Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully everybody enjoys it's not supposed to be great weather. I don't know what you're going to do with that, but go out, enjoy some of the places I just told you. Check them all out this summer and make sure tonight, little Phils, 8:40. Don't forget that. Little 8:40 start for the Phils. What else we got going on this weekend? Well, you got the conference finals continuing right here on 97.3 ESPN. Celtics up 2-0 over the Pacers, and then the other game tonight, Western Conference Finals. So you have that. You got the Phils all weekend long. Remember, late times for the Phils tonight and tomorrow, and then like a 3:10 start on Sunday. We're off on Monday, and we'll be back here on Tuesday on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, download the free mobile app. It's free thanks to our friends at First Bank of Sea Isle City. Holy mackerel. And before we get out of here tonight, we do want to remember that the Big Three, all of our picks were brought to you by Manahawkin Auto Sales. Our friends at Manahawkin Auto Sales bringing you the Big Three today here on the Sports Bash. Woohoo! That's it for us, man. Josh has game night coming up next. For me, I'm done. And before we rock and roll out of here, I want to thank Manahawkin Auto Sales for being a new sponsor of the Big Three and the Sports Bash. So thank you to Manahawkin Auto Sales. Not too far up the road right there, about 30 minutes from our studios. Manahawkin Auto Sales. And I want to thank our friends over at Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadley's your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, and installation for generations. If you have something go wrong this weekend, call them at 609-390-3907, online at broadleys.net. That's it for me. I'm Mike Gill, and this has been the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Have a great weekend. We'll talk Tuesday.
Grand Canyon University makes earning your degree possible with over 130 academic programs for traditional campus students with more than 80 bachelor's programs offered online. GCU provides you with the personal support you need, from complimentary unofficial transcript evaluations within 24 business hours to scholarships, academic support, and your GCU graduation team, led by your own university counselor. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.